ground. A-Chain. They haven't stopped the running game, so go that way, and it's another touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Second down and 21. Dracovic has all kinds of time to throw. That same wide open. Catches it at the 18. Now he's looking for blocks. He's going to get them. And St. Flowers is going to score.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Headed for Tank. He'll give it a go. First man misses. He's got an alley. Right back up the middle. The cut up midfield. There goes Tank Dell. The burst inside the 20, and he's gone. Touchdown Cougars on the 68-yard punt return.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
C.J. Stroud to Smith and Jigba. Great move. Gets down the sideline. And a burst. Smith and Jigba. Touchdown, Buckeyes.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Lane Kiffin was trying to get a timeout. Instead, it's a first down, and it's a touchdown for Butte.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, here we go. And, you know, we spend a lot of time discussing college football, and we will, as there's some of that to get to. We will do a lot of that today, but today is about the Big 12 men's basketball tournament up in Kansas City last night. West Virginia and Oklahoma State advanced into playing today. West Virginia right now trails KU without Bill Self, who's in the hospital, and apparently doing okay. They're down right now by double digits to Kansas late in the first half. And then tonight there's two more games to be played. But earlier today, here are two graphics. One of them is, I just happened to screenshot this. This was when Iowa State had taken the lead. Baylor once led 50-42. Iowa State went on a run that began what was a 28-10 run. Now look at the time, and it may be a little difficult to look at or see. It's a little bit blurry, but there's just under 6 minutes left in the game. The rebounding stats for Iowa State against Baylor with just under 6 minutes left in the game, 36-17. Now, this was with 7 seconds left in the game, and Iowa State on their way to just winning the game. That number is 49-17. So you mean to tell me in the last 6 minutes, and I don't know when they got to 17, that you didn't even have a missed free throw fall in your lap? And I know that they have a week off. I know that they're not going to have to play Iowa State, or they hope to God they don't. And they may not have to play anybody in the Big 12, at least for a round or two. But this today was unbelievably bad as far as in the second half, and the way that an 8-point lead just absolutely melted.
Well, they are 0-3. Like, to put a positive spin on it, they're 0-3 against Iowa State. They were leading a game in which their three guards weren't scoring in the second half, but that was a harbinger of bad things to come. They're not going to play any more Big 12 games, so that's all good. But they are, if they don't get the right matchups, then you know they're in trouble, because they don't really play a lick of defense, this team. They don't rebound, like you said, very well. And they get on a collective cold streak among the three guys who you can't have you're supposed to, look, if all three of us were cold doing the show at the same time, that's a really bad show. If one of us is having an off day and the other two are doing well, then that's a fine show. If two of us are bad and one of us is great, then we can make it through. Well, we can't do it if it's 0-3, and that's what was going on for most of the second half today with Baylor's three-star guards. They can't have that in the tournament, but they're not going to see teams that know them like the Big 12 does. So that's the good news, and they have a week off, and they very much need it. But it does depend on their draw, like what happens in the rest of that part of the bracket before, especially that first weekend. Do you play a team that maybe is Iowa State's clone from another league, and then you're probably screwed again.
Yeah. Craig, that's listen, it's not like they didn't go out and try. I had someone Lindsay, who contacted me and said, hey, they're playing hard, or they've played hard. Never said they didn't play hard, never said they weren't trying. But that's an effort. When you are out-rebounded 49-17, let's say 8 or 10 of those are just lucky bounces off the rim. Go make your own lucky bounces. And today, they were out-muscled, they were outplayed, they were out-hustled, and obviously executed as well.
Yeah, I saw some of that exchange, and I just feel like, it's a little bit nitpicky to start, bogging down on an exact word, and when it doesn't really change the meaning all that much of what the point of the statement was to begin with. But that's what happens when you lose, right? Everybody's a little more uptight, everybody's a little more tense, everybody's a little more picky or annoyed by things. So, yeah, I think, you should be far more upset about what happened during the game than, the summary of it when the summary is harmless. But it was not good. It was another ugly trip to Kansas City. I mean, you guys think about their streak now, and I'm sure you saw some of the statistical, numbers put out there, or some of the stats as far as their recent history, go. What is it? They haven't been to the quarterfinals in this tournament since 2014. 2014, is that correct?
Yep.
That's just, I mean, how do you explain that? I feel like, you're going to have to kind of do a job if you're Scott Drew and Mac Rhodes and company of now kind of rallying the troops to keep coming to Kansas City. If all they do is they sign up to come stay for one day, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you want to, have everybody excited about this opportunity, and you want to have your fans turn out and all that. But like now you've sort of set this precedent where the expectation is like you're only going to be there for like 24 hours because they don't win there. And for whatever reason, this is the one hump. And this isn't something like, well, if he doesn't do this, then he's got to be on the – it's nothing like that. But this has been the big bugaboo as far as, like, the accolades go. This is the one mountain that they have not been able to climb all that well. The one feat that they have not been able to accomplish is going and taking care of business in the Big 12 tournament. So I'm not at all shocked because, quite frankly, I've sort of like this when the tournament time started approaching and all that buzz started building, I'm like, well, I hope they stick around for a little while because, in my experience, they don't typically.
That's true. Now, I will give you the other side of people coming to that. I've been to 10 of those things, and that's 10 more than 99% of the season ticket holders of that place. And look, if Baylor lost today, they're losing 200 people in the stands that'll go back to Texas. If Iowa State lost, well, they're not. I mean, some of them will just stay and get drunk the whole rest of the time, but they're losing a big chunk fans. So for the city of Kansas City, it's better for Iowa State to win.
There is that argument about the fact Kansas State,
closer,
Iowa State.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to make it about attendance. I'm just simply saying, if you are a Baylor fan who would gear up and go to this thing normally, like at what point are you like, wow, this is 6 years in a row I've gone up to this place. They haven't won a game yet. Like, what am I doing? Like, why do I keep coming to this thing? Because they don't ever, move on. And so I think that's something that you've got to be a little bit concerned about, at least, even if, your representation's not that great to begin with. But yeah, very frustrating day. The fears that you have about this team remain fears moving forward, especially, as you said, if they match up with somebody who's got some good talent down low and some, muscle on the boards. That is a bad, potential matchup for them if you just describe a team in that way. So, yeah, regroup, have a little bit of time off, I would imagine, and wait, where they're going to be heading. But not a good look today overall as far as the result goes.
And let's look at the history lately, and this is from Curtis Quillen from the NBC affiliate in Waco. Here are the past 7 tournaments. Now, listen. In 2021, Baylor was beaten by Oklahoma State. They won the national title. A lot of teams that are really good during the regular season. Now, Kansas seems to be the exception, but they haven't just run through every one of these. Iowa State's won a chunk of them. Kansas State has not, and they have a great crowd that can be right there because they're on the back, right there on the doorstep. One time I remember going to it, Baylor played Missouri and lost by whatever it was, 8 or 9 points in the championship game. But this is where they have been. Now, does this mean if you don't win their first round, quarters, semis, whatever, you don't play well in the tournament? I don't have all that matched up because, again, they lost in the semis and then went on to dominate the NCAA tournament in crushing Gonzaga to win the national title. There's a lot of this chatter about the tournament should be moved. I get that as well. I actually at least understand that argument. Brett Yormark, no matter about what he's talking about, expanding everything basketball, saying again in his press conference that he doesn't see any right now reason for them to not continue on. They have the tournament in Kansas City through like 26-27 season. But the rebounding is about, it's not like Iowa State has 3 7-footers. It's not like they have 4 Dominique Wilkins. They out-rebounded Baylor by 27 and did not allow a rebound in the last at least 6 minutes of the game. There is something to question there about being physical enough, having that killer mentality, having the ability to block out the fundamentals, the effort, and the hustle, and just playing hard. Doesn't mean you didn't want to win. Doesn't mean you were being lazy. But when you get out-rebounded like that, then there is an issue, and I'm sure Scott Drew's addressing it already.
Let me address the people who think the tournament should be moved. Okay, then are you comfortable with the football championship game being played in Kansas City?
Well, there was a time.
Yeah, and didn't work out the way the Big 12 wanted to. That's kind of why they kind of came to this. And it's been in Dallas before, and it was kind of a dud compared to Kansas City. Kansas City does a better job of hosting it. It's a better spot for it. The AAC is a fantastic arena. There's nothing around the AAC. It's not set up for it. Kansas City is set up for it. And the people who say it should be moved, I promise you, have never gotten their ass on a plane and gone.
And I don't know what the attendance figure is at this arena compared to Dickey's Arena, which we brought up. I don't think it's the same. I would think Dickey's Arena, we mentioned that, and around that area is fantastic. But again, that's when you are looking for defaults and excuses.
I was going to say, are we talking about this if they won today? Are we talking about the site of the tournament? Absolutely not. No, I mean, like maybe, that's a conversation you ultimately get to, like a bullet point you get to ultimately, but that's not like the main thing that you're thinking about is, well, if they'd move that damn tournament out of Kansas City, Baylor would last a couple days longer. I mean, I think that's kind of grasping at straws. I think I misquoted on the quarterfinals. The last time, this was from Curtis Quinn as well, Baylor made it to Saturday. That's what I was trying to say. The last time they made it to Saturday was 2014.
Yeah.
So we're closing in on nearly 10 years without making it to Saturday in the Big 12 tournament. And to Paul's point about the AAC in Dallas, I remember when Paul and I went up there for the women's tournament, and we had to kill time, and that was boring as hell, all due respect. We tried to make fun of it as best we could, but it was boring as all get out because there's nothing around there. Now, it's grown immensely since then, but it's mostly apartments and things like that. And, I didn't get the vibe that this is a great spot for the Big 12 tournament. Even in my short trip to Kansas City a couple years back, I could see the appeal of that. I could see, like, the walk to the arena and the bars and restaurants and all of that, and that all made sense and was set up nicely. So, I mean, I get it from if you're in Texas standpoint, that you have to fly up there, you have the long drive up there, and that's always going to continue to be a conversation. But, I don't think Dallas and the AAC is necessarily the answer either.
All right, so there's that. Kansas is leading early on. Again, they're in the first half right now, KU and West Virginia. That game is going on up in Kansas City. There's 4 games today. Iowa State has moved on. They have moved on. Kansas up 8, 31-23 at the half there. Mark Adams, no longer the head coach at Texas Tech. Yesterday, of course, Jim Boeheim, you can kind of decide whether he retired or was basically retired by Syracuse. But then Mark Adams, we know this story because he was suspended, and then late yesterday, he's gone as the head coach, and Texas Tech was beaten last night, and so Texas Tech starts to look for who's going to replace him. Now, think about where Tech has been, and this is why you should enjoy what you have as long as you can. They were in the championship game, right?
Yeah.
Seconds away from winning the national title. Chris Beard could walk on water. He was phenomenal, up-and-coming coach, still is, despite what's happened to him. They were seconds away from winning the national title. They were really good the next year, and I guess that's the year COVID took over, but KU and Baylor were really, really good too, but they were still good. And then last year, they were a Sweet 16 team, and they were really good last year. And then all of a sudden, now they're looking for their second coach in 3 years. And, Kirby Hocutt can sell the fans, the attendance, facilities, the NIL, all of that above. But, man, they got to go look up and go, what happened here?
Yeah, I think Grant McCaslin's going to be a very interesting candidate for that job. North Texas, another Scott. Look, what's the big thing in the Big 12 right now? The two best coaches and most consistent are Bill Self and Scott Drew. Bill Self's guys have pretty much kind of stayed there, as where Scott's guys have stayed with him. But, like, as they go, Paul Mills, Grant McCaslin are out there, both having good runs. I would, if I'm Texas Tech, I'm, maybe go onto that tree because it worked for Kansas State. Plus, the other thing I would think that, if you want to go get a guy who knows Scott Drew culture in a place that loves basketball, our friend Doug McNamee told me this. He said as soon as Jerome Tang got hired at Kansas State, he said, they're going to be a problem for everybody in the Big 12 for a long time, because if you take Scott Drew's culture and then you put it in a place that is absolutely obsessed with basketball, it will go. And you've seen what happens with Joey McGuire and he's the same kind of enthusiastic person. It's worked out really well in a year so far, at least excitement-wise and looking like results-wise for Texas Tech. Then you put that on the basketball court with a McCaslin or a Paul Mills, and especially given the fact that, one coach left, everybody was mad because he went to a conference rival, and then the second guy got run out because he couldn't get along with players on the team. Yeah, I think you might need somebody who's got a little bit of happy in him.
Yeah, I mean, that could work. I mean, like you said, it wouldn't be the first time they've tried to, mimic, somebody who's had a successful stint in Waco, remains to be seen with Joey. But, yeah, so far that's off to a tremendous start. So I think whether it be them or anybody else looking at some of those guys that you mentioned, that wouldn't come as a surprise at all, because that's a coaching tree that's really blossoming right now. At the same time, though, I'd imagine Kirby Hocutt does have other outlets that he could look towards. I'm not sure who that would be, but I think that they're going to be pretty thorough in their search, unless I'm incorrect and they've already had somebody in mind for a while, because this certainly was a very quick and abrupt exit. Like, we're almost like glossing over the fact that this head coach is out of there now and we're already onto the coaching search.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, This was a week ago. He's the head coach, and he's the head coach probably for the foreseeable future. And all of a sudden, there's a story that comes out, and it's like, uh-oh. And 24 hours later, he's gone. I mean, this wasn't like Chris Beard had a longer stretch between accusation and actual firing. It was like a month, right? It was several weeks of Texas looking into it. This was like 24 hours, and Mark Adams is apparently coming forward and saying, like, I'm done. And I don't know how all that unfolded, but that's pretty major, because, as you said, in 2019, they're in the Final Four. And the two main causes of that, non-player-wise, have had a very interesting last couple of months with Chris Beard's situation in Austin, and now he's probably going to be headed to Ole Miss, it looks like. And Mark Adams, abruptly no longer being the head coach. I mean, that coaching search will be very interesting, but what a turn of events and what an unexpected, situation for them to find themselves in. Good news is that you can go, as you saw with, Joey McGuire, you can go find the right guy and turn this thing around pretty immediately. And it's not like they're lacking in talent, but I saw where IMAX already entered the transfer portal. I'm sure there will be other fallout as well. But, yeah, just a crazy situation for it to go from 0 to 100 as quickly as it did, with Mark Adams now being out officially. And, very curious which direction they go, whether that's the Scott Drew coaching tree and or possibly, another route. That's going to be a job that, because of the passion and the turnout and obviously the commitment behind the scenes, that, is going to be a highly coveted job, I would think.
If Texas makes the terrible...
No, absolutely. Rodney Terry.
Yeah, if Texas makes that terrible mistake, I would, if I were Texas Tech, I might wait out that decision and see, like, are they going to, go, oh, well, we really, like to go bigger. It would be a terrible decision for Texas to let Rodney Terry go, because he's already coached successfully in West Texas. And if they just went over and said, nope, here you go.
Well, that remains to be seen. The thing is, Texas is playing now, so they're not going to make any decision unless they were to announce that he's going to be coming back next year. So that could be another 3 weeks before UT's no longer playing, if in fact most likely they could be. And again, they could be done after the first week,
but that's
because of the way the tournament's set up.
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, what's your rush right now? The tournament's taking over the headlines for the next month. You can wait out a guy to lose, a second round game or wherever the candidate who ends up being the guy might end up. This isn't like this situation when they were hiring a football coach and Joey McGuire's leaving, to go get recruited, or to get the recruiting class started. They're not in that type of a situation here. So, yeah, I think that they can, obviously it was probably a tough trip back to Lubbock. We wondered, maybe is this, like, what do you expect from this basketball team when they play last night? Was it going to be win one, for all those involved to just, spin this thing on its head and turn a negative into a positive and win out and, become a great story of resiliency. And maybe they can eventually in some other way. But no, instead last night it was like, nope, you're one and done and you're out of here. And like it's back to Lubbock time. So that wasn't, in the cards. But they'll get somebody great. They don't have to be in a hurry right now, in my opinion. But I am fascinated to see what direction they go.
All right, so there's that. Kansas up by 8 at halftime. 2 more games tonight. And Oklahoma State, Texas will be the second or the third game. And then, of course, later on tonight, hell of a game maybe between TCU, and they're reeling because of the story we had from yesterday, and also Kansas State, and also former Baylor coach Jerome Tang. So Baylor's done for the tournament. Does that affect their seeding? I would think so. I would think that when you lose your last game of the regular season at home and you're beaten by double digits and then lose again in the next time you meet whoever it was, and I would think that, and a lot of it could depend on what happens around them, but I would say that I was talking to somebody in Baylor Athletics today that they are now probably expecting, and if it's more than that, great, but probably going to be a 3 seed when they get to the tournament selection Sunday this weekend.
It depends on what happens this evening with TCU and Kansas State. I think Kansas State's the team that would definitely knock them off that, but I kind of agree with you. Like they still have a chance right now if things that they can't control go their way. But if Kansas State gets a W tonight, then, I think that's kind of over.
Yeah, and nobody to blame but yourself. You got swept by Kansas State. You got swept 3 times, 3 meetings with Iowa State. You won and done in the Big 12 tournament, and that's what you get. That's the draw. You had an opportunity to create something a little bit different or solidify your position, and now you leave it up to others to find that position for you. So that's the way the cookie crumbles, and I'm just curious to see, how they rebound. I'd imagine that's a pretty somber flight back to Waco, just because of how quick of a trip it was and the expectations of this team, being top 5, top 10, pretty much the entire year, that caliber of a program. This is a quicker than expected exit. So back to the drawing board, and just hope that you get a good draw come Selection Sunday, because the last thing you want is for it to be a quick exit out of the NCAAs as well.
The bottom line is Texas Tech has it all set up pretty well with that program because of what they've done. They swarm to that arena. Fan base always seems to be very rabid at Texas Tech and very, very loyal. And now that just depends on who they hire, what they move forward. But they will lose a few players, as they already have, to the transfer portal at some point, and then maybe get some back and also some new ones. Now, one of the other stories today, and this kind of just came out of nowhere, Chris Vanini from The Athletic. The AAC has released a statement from Commissioner Mike Aresco railing against the Power 5 label, saying the real gap is the top 2. He's also not happy about P5 conferences working on their own NIL legislative approach. There are 10 FBS conferences. So here are some of the quotes from Mike Aresco, the American Conference Commissioner. How could the American have been to the Final Four, an Elite 8, multiple Sweet 16s, have had a college football team in the playoff? How could the American currently be home to the number 1 men's basketball team in the country? At this moment in history, separating conferences with a so-called Power 5 moniker lacks meaning in the context of competitiveness. Last part of what he said, and we're taking part of what he said, 5 American Athletic Conference schools were once BCS, or Southwest Conference teams. If the difference is so vast, why does the American have 4 New Year's Day football wins over top 10 teams and dozens of regular season football wins against the labeled Power 5?
Nothing he's saying is not true. I mean, it's all true. It against the eye of the beholder. One thing I do agree with is that, calling yourself the Power 5 is probably a little inappropriate when you have teams inside Power 5 leagues so upset about their money that they're trying to get out of 13-year-long grant of rights things or trying to challenge that. So if you guys are so well off, better for example, if the ACC is so much better off than the AAC, then why do they have teams squawking right now? Why did all this stuff have to happen? Yeah, he's right. There's a bigger gap between the Big Ten and the SEC than there is between the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and the AAC. So, yeah, that's the issue. And if his point is, there's a power 2, but there's 8 other conferences. If we kind of banded together, maybe this alliance could get something done. That makes sense. But Mike Oresco's been fighting that fight for a long time. But I do feel like he's probably just going to be screaming into the void because you've got big money schools that don't have any interest in helping the AAC be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, and I'd imagine he's probably the most frustrated college commissioner in the country right now, but it just seems like he is screaming into the void. Like, what do you want us to do? Like, I mean, what I guess change the Power 5 slogan. Okay. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that this is headed towards where it's more of a Power 2, but even if it's a Power 2, you mean to tell me that the Big 12 or the ACC or the Pac-12 don't still have a pretty considerable little margin in between them and the remaining other conferences?
Well, what is the gap that everyone looks at? It's financial, right?
Right, yeah.
And so it's a huge gap between whoever is 5.
And this also has to do with not just a label, although you can, disagree and squabble over the label, but all right, Mike, let's not call it the Power 5. Let's call it what it is, the Autonomy 5. Okay, now what? Because there is an Autonomy 5. There are 5 conferences. That's what Mack Rhoades calls it.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's always been intentional in calling it that, the Autonomy 5 rather than the Power 5, because they are the 5 conferences who have a bit more say as far as the rules making and those things. And so that's where the term, as far as the 5 together, that's where that term comes from, is just that they have a little more sway, so to speak, without getting into all the details of how all that works and operates. I don't think it's really been so much about the financial. I mean, it is about the financial, but I don't think it's been so much about like anything other than that. To me, at least, that's where that's always originated, was the Autonomy 5. But for some reason, somebody called it the Power 5 because I guess having say in legislation means you have a little bit more power. Well, that still makes sense. I can understand on his end where it's a little bit disrespectful, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know what he's to accomplish outside of just a name change. And I guess with the name change, then the schools that are still remaining in the American are basically blended in with the majority of the rest of the country. But I'm sorry, I don't see the remaining AAC on the same level as Florida State or Oregon or Texas Tech or, some of these other non-Power 2 schools. I just don't. I think there's still a financial gap. I think there's also the autonomy gap. And, I get it, but I just don't know that a name change really changes the basis of where that kind of all comes from to begin with.
Well,
so
his job is to fight for his
conference.
I know.
Yeah. I understand that.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with what both of you have said. His job is to fight for his conference, just like he was attempting to do when Texas and Oklahoma story broke. Remember when there was, maybe the ESPN's trying to sugarcoat things for the American Conference, and all of a sudden Bowlesby got involved, and that ended very quickly.
And there's more to it. Like he talked about how, apparently they uncovered legislation about NIL that hadn't been shared with the other schools. And so that from that standpoint, I'm understanding, but it just, the way that he kind of delivered it is like, I don't know. I'm sorry. There is a gap, but there is. And to say that there's not is kind of silly. But maybe that gap is narrower than it's been. And, his frustrations, his conference has been raided over, and it's been dismantled seemingly overnight. And now there's the threat of what is the Pac-12 going to come grab Tulane next? Like, what else is out there that's potentially a threat? Is SMU now out as well? I mean, you look at that potential of teams that they've,
they've lost. What are the 3 best football teams in the American Conference? Cincinnati, right? Houston is in that mix.
Yep.
Who else would be a
UCF.
And UCF. There you go. Yeah.
But then you add in Tulane, who just had the best season, and there's at least scuttlebutt that maybe they'd be up next, and SMU, who's also been one of their better teams. So it's like, if you're him, you're probably freaking out right now and trying to find your place in this ever-changing world, just like the Autonomy 5 guys are trying to figure out their place in the world as well. So maybe everybody uses different language. It's Power 2 rather than Power 5, but I'll just say Autonomy 5 then, and problem solved.
All right, let's break here. It's 3:29. I did talk back and forth by text to King McClure. He's at the arena in Kansas City. He's going to join us today around 4 o'clock, walk back into the tunnel or hallway and give us his view from right there at Courtside. Did you guys, I want to make sure I get this right, but Brett Yormark took a lot of the seating that was near the floor, including some of the spots for the media, and we used to have great spots, sold those tickets for like 5,000 seats, put seats closer to the floor, and sold them to some, I guess you could think, high-level boosters, donors, high rollers for $5,000.
Yeah, look,
that's,
good.
You know, I get it.
Hey, I don't even mind that because one time I had to sit next to Will Perdue, and that wasn't comfortable. I mean, it was nice and cool to meet Will Perdue, but he's like 7 feet tall, wedged back there in those seats. So yeah, that was a really smart move, and I wouldn't mind sitting up there. So that the Emery's there, so that's probably where he's sitting right now.
That's another way. Just when Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys, who were absolutely almost bankrupt, they were absolutely in deep debt. Jerry Jones took what were the media press box area and just basically gutted them, moved them up to different places. And initially I was like, wait a minute, this is not good at all. He sold and built suites, lots and lots and lots of suites, made lots and lots of money. Guess what you didn't have to share back then? I don't know if it's the case anymore. The money you make from suites. There was something about the luxury suite money.
Well,
he did that at Texas Stadium, and there's a reason now why you have all these stadiums that are not just gorgeous, but also have hundreds of suites for them to sell.
It was funny when he got his induction weekend for the Hall of Fame was the same as LaDainian Tomlinson, and I asked him that question because you and I had talked about it before I left. It said, did you ever have a moment of maybe I should ask the rest of the owners what they think about this? And he's like, hell, I was in too much, we were broke. We're too much debt. I didn't have time to ask him. I just did it.
Trying to scratch and claw.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden everybody else is like, oh, wait, we can do this too?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I saw Bryce Cherry didn't seem to be too happy about it because from a media standpoint or somebody who's writing the story, you do feel like the closer to the court you are, the more you pick up on and the more details, the more things you can write about. But I also know nobody's crying over the media seating at any event. So, yeah, I mean, that's a smart money-making decision. Not so great for the media, but those are the types of things that I guess will be on the docket and the types of things that you hope add up and eventually turn into boons for you that are making you real good money. But yeah, that's just a slight tweak that makes some sense, although it's not going to sit well with everybody. So we'll see how well they do in selling those out. I'd hate to be a Baylor fan that bought one of those and just right out of there, but hey, if you got it, then flaunt it, I suppose, and have fun with it.
Yeah, Biscuits and Gravy said she was listening to the Baylor broadcast. Pat Nunley was saying on the radio the print writers were tweaked over being moved. I'm telling you, if this was where we sat, like where we are on this our setup, our studio format here, I'm not joking. 20 feet or so in front of us was one of the courtside was a court. There was a little bit of a walkway between 2 or 3 levels of these tables that were built, then a scorer's table, and each team, sometimes the teams were on the opposite side, but they were phenomenal views and great access, and you really could, without a doubt, really, really enjoy. You could hear everything. You could hear everything.
I sat next to Frank Martin one day, too. That was great.
I bet it was. I bet it was. Ryan Nelson, $2 super chat, wasted a great three-point performance from Jalen Bridges. He was phenomenal. 10 of 11 from the field. He was, in fact, he also had a few hustle plays when he bounced it off an Iowa State player when Baylor was making their run to take the lead, and they did by 8. Yeah, you wasted an opportunity with Jalen Bridges if anybody else would have stepped up. One of the stats that did blow my – go ahead.
No, I will say something as we close the segment.
One of the stats that did, when I looked at – this is not trying to – I see what happened. Like during the game, fans look for default reasons and excuses, and that's everybody does, every fan base. And then I start to see where they're angry. If you're a Baylor fan, you're frustrated. I get it. And then all of a sudden, somebody will start to put up opinions about what they saw too, and sometimes they're not always easy to read, truth serum or not. And, Flo Thamba had no rebounds. Flo Thamba had 2 points and no rebounds. He was, when you had Batman Robin and whoever else around you with Mark Vidal and with Jonathan Chama-Chachua when he was like at his best a couple of years ago. You know, he could roam. He could block shots. He had no rebounds today. And, yeah, there were maybe a couple of times somebody went over his back, but he also missed a dunk point blank. He's a wonderful young man, but he has had better nights than he had Saturday to close out his career at the Farrell Center and tonight or today, this afternoon, in Kansas City. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, just as we head to break, I just want to ask, and we don't ever do this, but if you are watching us, if you watch us on a regular basis, please don't make me go through this rigmarole every single day. Every podcast and every show seemingly does, but I try to not have to do that. But in this case, when we've had, you know, at times several hundred people logging on, I saw somebody point out yesterday, it's like there's one like on the chat, you know, on the page, and there's like 350 people in here. If you could just quickly, if you enjoy what we do or you want to, in a very free and very simple way, support what we do, just please hit that like button. It does a world of wonders, and that adds up over time. And we don't ask for anything much. We're just here every day with you for 3 hours for free. So if you do contribute to us, the Super Chat, we do definitely appreciate that, but don't expect it. But if you could just hit that like button, we would definitely appreciate that as well.
All right, so we're going to do this. Kansas up by 6 now with 13:20 to go as Amanda is in a fetal position because Bill Self is not feeling well, and also KU's letting West Virginia kind of hang around here a little bit. We will come back no matter who your fan base is or who your favorite team is. If you're a Baylor fan, what are your legitimate expectations now that their regular season and conference tournament is over? Are they a 2 seed? Are they a 3 seed? What do you honestly, other than just like, oh, they're going to win the national title, and maybe that's the way you feel. Where are you now with that? 254-339-1122 is also the text line. We'll get to that and your feedback and the chat. And this is 365 Sports.
During Ram Truck Month, shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels. Ram trucks have all the quality for work or play, with impressive towing capabilities, heavy-duty payload capacity, smooth ride, and a luxury feel interior design. If you're looking for a truck that can do it all, come see the possibilities of a Ram truck. And if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Some of the response to the question entering the break, and King McClure will join us from Kansas City in about 15 minutes or so. From Scotty B, as loyal a fan as you could ever imagine for anybody, along with a lot of you who are on here, even those who are angry. I think Baylor goes to the Sweet 16, they lose that game. Bobby B, 3 seed. Expectations 0 zip, zilch, the null set. From retired stockbroker, number 3 at worst, should be a 2. If Kansas loses today, they're up by 6, 12 minutes left. What are they? Are they still a 1 or at a 2 at worst? They lost their last regular season game. Nobody in America has more quad 1 wins than Kansas, and it's not even close, even if a couple of people chip away with 1 or 2 this week the rest of the way. And Kansas up 6, and now it's down to 4. But still a long way to go in that one. Who knows? But they were beaten by Texas. Can Texas get to a 1? Maybe if they were to run this table. But it looks like Houston, who am I missing here? Kansas, Houston are locked in at number 1 seeds. Kansas has more quad 1 wins by far than anybody else in America. And that's also what protects Baylor, despite losing Saturday and again today to Iowa State, is what they have. They don't have any bad losses. Well, I mean, you could think of a loss that's bad. Like any time to Iowa State, all 3 times they were beaten up the first 2 times for sure. And then Kansas hammered them. Kansas State hammered them. They don't have any of what you would call bad quad losses. They don't have any losses to quad 4 teams.
They don't have any losses to quad 2 or 3 teams either, I don't think. So
there
everything's
may be a
in
quad 2 that slipped into there. Because
oh, yeah, I guess it depends on where. But, yeah, everything else is really, really good.
And then Marquette could be, like, again, Marquette's one of those that's very highly up the food chain when it comes to the season where they might end up as well. Let's see, from TJ, isn't the seed a team that is just an ego thing?
No.
No, gosh, no.
No, because it sets the entire pathway for where you're going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference in playing a team that's a really bad matchup potentially and getting a bit more of a, not so much a cakewalk in the NCAA tournament, but that could be the difference in being a Sweet 16 team and getting bounced in day 2.
You know what it also could be, Craig? Where you play.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, that's absolutely matters. Well, your draw absolutely matters because of the path that it sets, location-wise potentially, but, also just the teams that you're playing. I mean, there are different roads. Not everything's equal, and that's the first thing that everybody does, right? What bracket are we in? What region are we in? All right, if we beat this team, then who do we play next? Oh, God, we have to play Michigan in round 2? Like, holy cow, that's what we all do. That's why predicting the NCAA tournament is so hard. It's because it's already it's tough to begin with. But yeah, I think that absolutely matters.
Yeah, like for this particular tournament, I don't think locations, I mean, it might be an hour longer on a plane if they get further out as a 3 seed. But
for them in particular.
But, for Baylor, like the closest they're probably going to go is either Birmingham or Denver. Otherwise, they're in Sacramento or somewhere like that. So, yeah, I don't know if that I don't know if that's really going to matter. But, yeah, it does matter because your matchups really do matter. Now, look, Baylor, like Rhino Reselling said that they're a 3 seed and they won't last long. I will make the argument that I think this team could very easily win 2 games against 2 non-Big 12 teams and look like superstars doing it because of the matchups that they draw. Now, if they draw a team that is like that plays like Marquette or Virginia, like teams that they've lost to earlier this year, then they're probably in for a battle. But if they draw kind of a random ACC or Big Ten team that doesn't play that style, then shoot, they might be all right. And they're going to be a 3 and they're going to get a 14. So,
and still could be a 2 and get a 15. And
exactly.
Biscuits and gravy, as we said, regardless of the last 2 games, Baylor, still has more quad wins than teams that could move to the number 2 line and no quad 3 or 4 losses. That's very true. But the committee has to know that the last couple of games, where that was in Waco, and then also the game against Iowa State. And Iowa State, by the way, they're in the discussion of helping their seeding, maybe a 5. Could they get to most likely around a 5? I mean, 9-9 in the Big 12, and they just won that game, and who knows what they're going to win possibly the rest of the week. They would get Kansas next, who's up 10 if Kansas wins that game right now against West Virginia.
Yeah, and I think, I understand why we focus on Baylor, but we do need to, make mention of, others like Iowa State and the accomplishment of, hey, Baylor's basically been a top 10 team all year, and you went 3-0 against them.
Absolutely.
And you did it twice in the last week. So TJ Otzelberger and his crew, and they've been through a little bit of adversity here lately, obviously. Losing a key player in a pretty strange, but, I guess I don't know how dramatic it was, but I think you know what I mean. A pretty, an ugly story.
Yeah,
an ugly exit for a player and who obviously loved Iowa State greatly, and you hate to see that towards the end of the year. Now we've seen it for 2 teams in the Big 12, losing players here as the tournament time rolls around. But, yeah, I mean, they could have, gone a different route at various points, and here they are, and they deserve a lot of credit for, handling Baylor the way that they did. And now let's see how they do against Kansas. But they're in a little bit of a rut, and now they've seemingly woke up.
They had lost 8 of 10.
Yeah.
They had lost 8 of 10, and they just won in Waco against a team that was ranked, number 6 or 7 in the country, and then just validated that for the 3rd time with what they did today up in Kansas City.
And look, I saw Matthew said that he thinks that this team's quit on the season. Just a little more than a week ago, they beat the ever-loving crap out of Texas. They beat them bad. So they've got it in them. Now, maybe this team doesn't have the consistent vein through it that the last couple of years, the 2020, 2021, 2022 teams did as far as the way that they focused on things. But again, it's about the matchups. Like Iowa State's a terrible matchup for them, clearly. They lost to them twice in a week. But, had they beaten Iowa State the other day, they might be playing West Virginia. Well, I don't know if they'd be playing West Virginia now, but they might be playing a different team and winning and looking good. They beat TCU, who was a team that was playing well, that beat them the first time they played. So that the Big 12 season is an absolute rock fight all year long. And so they're at the end of that rock fight and they're kind of limping a little bit. But they're out of the rock fight and they're into a different thing, which probably everybody in the Big 12 is going to benefit from not having to look across
at the same time,
at the same people.
At the same time, man. March Madness and the NCAA tournament could be
could be David Goliath in a different kind of rock fight if you're not careful.
I mean, to that point, they could be on a 10-game win streak right now, and the same thing's coming up. Like, it's March Madness. So, I mean, we can sit here and mope about the results against Iowa State today, and I understand why people have concerns. But, I mean, all that matters now is that you're 0-0. I mean, for them officially. Everybody else, they go and they join Texas Tech, which is, hey, nice win for West Virginia. Obviously, Tech was dealing with some things too, but still that was a big deal for the Mountaineers to get a win and survive. And then, nice win by Oklahoma State as well to beat Oklahoma in a little bedlam action. As, you talk about, I know they're not going to be in the conference more than another year or so, but very curious about Porter Moser and just kind of how, the mindset is there with Oklahoma basketball, because I know there's a lot of frustration this year. But, I mean, for teams like Baylor, that their tournament's already over, but that you're going to the NCAAs, it's time to regroup and just, again, wait on your draw. But just because they lost today doesn't mean they'll necessarily exit early here, next week. And even if they had won 10 straight and they won this tournament, doesn't mean they were going to automatically go to the Sweet 16 either, or to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. Who knows? I mean, I think that's the frustrating part, and for a lot of the fans out there, and they can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but the frustrating part is just when you think this team's got its mojo and it's about to go into, cruise control, although that's a term you got debated about, but cruise control, they suddenly are on a little bit of a losing skid. And just when you think that, oh, man, they can't get out of this funk, then they go on a run and they'll go beat up Texas or something like that. So they're fully capable of going on a run, but they're also, vulnerable enough to not last very long. And that's what obviously is the mystery right now. And everybody, I think, on the green and gold side is just hoping that what you saw today is not a sign of things to come and that there is a bit of a run left in this team.
Kansas State, of course, is somebody right now on the 3 line, and they have a game coming up tonight and against TCU. And if they make a run deep, and Biscuits also mentioned that in the chat, they could find themselves and play themselves right into a number 2 seed. And if you run the table and win the Big 12 tournament where you are as a number 3 seed right now projected, absolutely you earned that opportunity. It's 3:51. I was going to keep it here for a couple more minutes because we have King McClure coming up today in about 10 minutes. Let's see here. Scotty, I'm frustrated with Baylor today, but I knew adjustments will be made, especially rebounding. Is that a fundamental thing? Is that an effort thing? Is that a what thing? And they really don't have a lot of size. There's not a banger. They don't have a banger. Jonathan Chama-Chachua, which is a great story. Flo Thamba, they don't have a banger.
They need Mark
There's
Vital.
No power forward type. Well, everybody does.
No, I know, but that was kind of what I saw. A couple people bring up, and I know there's others outside of Mark, like a Rico Gathers, or just that type of a guy, a muscle down low, and they don't have that this year, and that's the big glaring missing piece.
But I don't believe they've quit.
No,
and Matthew, you have an opinion. I get it, but I don't think that they've just given up. They were up 8 at one point, so they were thinking about they were doing something right.
You know what they're missing? A psycho.
Yeah,
that's what Mark Vital, if he walked in here right now, I would say, "Are you a psycho?" He'd be like, "Yeah." I mean, that's what he was. He was out that's the thing they admit. That's what, and they had it. The one before is an NBA player now. Ish Wainwright was a psycho, maybe a little bit smoother than Vital early on, but bull in a china shop, not afraid to mix it up. Now, I do think a healthy Jonathan Chama-Chachua is that dude. And he's healthy-ish right now, but he's not himself yet. If he can next year get back to that guy who can run end line to end line and make those defensive plays and get that back and go, especially laterally, which he doesn't have. If he gets that back, then they've got their psycho again. But and who knows who else they bring in, because that. But I do think that that's something that they need to look for, is someone who can play on that edge a little bit. Now, a little bit of it today was, I saw some Mark Vital stuff from Jalen Bridges today. I mean, he did a couple of those things, but he doesn't do it all the time.
Yeah, but
he's more finesse.
Mark Vital's engine never stopped until he just had nothing left. And the thing about Jalen Bridges, who was phenomenal, God knows what would have happened had he not been who he was, and there were open shots and he hit them, is that he's not going to, wear you down physically. Where Vital would lean on you, wear you down, and was always going to have 4 fouls late in the game, if not already out of the game. And they don't have that. Loner is a little bit awkward for that. He's going to have a collision or two. He had one today, but it's not because he's doing it from start to finish, from tip to coming off the bench as the sixth man.
It'll matter, too, like how healthy does Langston Love get in the next few days before the tournament starts. Not having him didn't help matters, and now it's a question of when he might be back with that eye injury. But, not playing in this tournament, one game, but not playing, close out the regular season. He's already missed some time. You're just curious how much more he potentially misses, because that is a loss for them as well.
All right, when we come back, King McClure, former Baylor guard, ESPN college basketball analyst. He's going to do radio for the semifinal games, I believe, coming up tomorrow night in Kansas City. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and the people that I've counted on many different times to get my vehicle repaired and get it all back up in tip-top shape. I had a road rage interaction with a guy. It dinged up my car. No problem. You wouldn't be able to notice. Richard Carr took care of that. And I didn't think that it would necessarily look the way that it did prior, but, hey, I didn't see any difference. So by the time they got done with it, I was very appreciative of that. And if I need some body work or I just need some repairs on my vehicle, they are the place that I'm going to go to. And if you need repairs on your vehicle, you're not even in the market for a car, but you're looking to make sure that the car that you are in or the truck or SUV that you're in drives a while longer, well, head on over to Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Check out their award-winning service department. It's just standing by to keep you on the road today. Go to the website, richardcarr.com. You can see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable repair. But perhaps you're not looking to get the vehicle you're in fixed up. You're looking for a vehicle, whether it be new or pre-owned. Checking out the lineup of new cars, trucks, and SUVs. A feature right now, you've got dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot. Qualified buyers can save thousands on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500s. They've also got luxurious SUV, the 2023 Buick Envision without the luxury price, but a smooth and quiet ride. You can get special lease payments with $5,000 down cash or trade at $269 per month. Save thousands on a purchase of the new 2023 Buick Envision. Now, if you want to go the pre-owned route, well, they've got plenty of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock as well, many of them under $20,000. They're thoroughly inspected, ready to finance, and affordable for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive today. So whether you're looking to get your car worked on or you're looking to get into a new or pre-owned vehicle, Richard Carr has been in business for 23 years in Central Texas and has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. So run on over to the dealership or check out the website, richardcarr.com. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
The future's bright. The time is now. Destiny is calling. Can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
He once played the game, probably still could. He now analyzes the game. King McClure, former Baylor guard, ESPN college basketball analyst on 365 Sports. King, I don't even know how, when you get out, I know it's much more than this, but when you are out rebounded by nearly 30, what is the deal? What is that effort? Is that hustle? Is it luck? What is that?
Man, I honestly, man, I can't even describe what we saw today out of the Bears, and for them to be out rebounded by that much, to simply put it, the Bears just got punked today. They got punked by Iowa State, and that's all you can really say about that.
How do you take what's happened the last couple of weeks? I mean, there's some good things in there too, and then change that as you move forward in the tournament, especially for the next few days, not knowing what you're going to see?
Yeah, it's honestly one of those things where you just have to have like almost a short-term memory loss. That's what we like to call it, because a lot of times when you playing in a tournament like this and you go on to the NCAA tournament, I mean, now it's a one-game season. So now if you hold your head and you're remembering what's going on, and, you know, you're still soaking on the last, you'll be out and your season will be done. It's one of those things you have to keep moving forward. You have to learn from that and make sure it's not a repeat. But the problem is, though, you know, effort has been the problem too many times this season. That's the biggest thing that Coach Drew has had the coaches, the effort on the defensive end, the rebounding. I mean, I think between the two bigs, they might have had, I want to say 0 rebounds maybe, or like 1 or 2.
Pretty close.
That's unacceptable. So, I mean, for me, you have to keep looking forward, and at the end of the day, one game at a time from now on.
I know there's plenty of other negatives to get to. Let's focus on a positive. What do you think of Jalen Bridges today?
Well, Jalen Bridges did a great job of stepping up when his time was called. Because when I think about Iowa State, they do a great job of making it tough on the guards because they put length on our guards, and it kind of bothers them at times. So they do a great job of canceling out the guards. He needed somebody else to step up, and frankly, Jalen Bridges gave us a chance to win the game. So without Jalen Bridges, the game probably wouldn't even be close because of the difference on the glass. But Jalen Bridges played well. I mean, they need this to carry over, and I think that he can be that. He's finally becoming comfortable in his shoes and the role that he is starting to play. Fran called him that he was the Baylor's Kevin McClure. And I like that. I mean, he's starting to embrace his role and starting to really step up.
King, you talked about washing this out. They have a full week. The selection Sunday, they could play as early as Thursday or Friday, no matter what. So they do have a full week. So what is Scott Drew? What is it, more mental or physical the next 6 or 7 days?
I guess that's the hard part about being a coach. Because if I'm Scott Drew, I have no idea how I'm addressing this because at this point of the season, it's almost like it's too late. Like it's almost like you have to accept who your team is and who your team isn't. And see what you do well, what you do good, and try to capitalize on those. But knowing Coach Drew, I know they'll probably take tomorrow off. Today's Thursday. They'll take Friday off. I'm sure Saturday and Sunday, maybe even Monday. They might even take 2 days off, but the next 2 practices will be extremely hard. It'll be a whole bunch of rebounding drills because Coach Drew is going to want to try to, work on that and fix that. But it'll be a lot of physicality. It'll be a really hard practice the next few days. But then towards, the game time, it'll be lighter and he'll ease up. But like the next practice and the practice after that will probably be extremely hard.
What kind of team do you think they need to match up with in the first couple rounds to get to the next weekend?
They need to match up with a team that does not – how do I phrase this? I guess a team that is not super aggressive on the defensive side. Because if you match up with a team like Houston per se or something like that this is super physical and tries to punk you from when the time they step on the court, I don't know if Baylor will fare out well with that. So, I think they need to run against a team who is a little bit less aggressive on the defensive side and that's not so physical.
You made that point about you don't even know what to do. This is who you are. You can't just like flip a switch, Ken. You can't just turn a light on and you become – or can they get back to who they were when they won, 10 of 11 or 9 straight conference games?
Yeah, I think they can. But, I mean, at this point in the season, the way they get there is just by outscoring people. That's just what they have to do. Defensively, they're not going to be great. They're not going to be the toughest team. They're just going to have to outscore you. And now, can they do that and get hot and get on a streak? Yes, they can. But I just think at this point in the season, they have to accept who they are. And they're a team that's going to try to outscore you. If it works, they win. If it doesn't work, then they're in for a long night.
Yeah, it's old Baylor football. It's old back in the day. Hey, you better score 50 or, you're going to probably lose the game.
Well, and King, it's, for an even closer comparison, it's kind of early, not the first couple of really good teams they had, but Scott Drew had some good teams that didn't play defense all that well either, kind of in the middle there, before the identity kind of changed over time.
Yeah, no, for sure. The identity has definitely changed. And, I mean, I'm here in Kansas City, and I saw Scott Drew. And it got a chance to talk to him after the game, and he's upset. He's pissed off because just to be out rebounded like that, to be able to get dominated on the glass like that. He looked at me and said, "When is the last time we've ever got dominated on the glass like this? Like almost by 30." Like the look on his face was like, "Yo, what the freak do I do? Like what?" And you could tell he was really upset. And I mean, Coach Drew is the ultimate competitor. He hates losing, especially losing to a team 3 times in one season. That typically doesn't happen. So you hate to see that, but I think ultimately they know who they are, and Coach Drew's going to try to correct it. But at this point in the season, you just really can't correct it.
Yeah, you're right, man. Like, why is it going to change now all of a sudden after all these months? You're absolutely dead on with that. So, yeah, there have to be a long look in the mirror and and so figuring out here pretty soon in the next couple of days of which direction they want to choose to go. But on the flip side, I mean, there is a team celebrating what was a very nice win, and that's Iowa State. Now, as you mentioned, 3-0 over Baylor this season. Obviously had a situation just a week ago with Caleb Grill, and that didn't let that sidetrack them at all. TJ Otzelberger and the Clones are handling their business now. King, what do you think about ISU as we move towards the tournament? They move forward after the win today.
I like their team, and I mean the whole Caleb Grill scenario. There's been a lot of drama in the Big 12, which is crazy. Like the past 2 weeks, a lot of drama, which you typically don't see. But with the Caleb Grill incident, I mean, I don't know what happened, don't know what was said, but it seems like the team has been able to look past that and been able to gel and come together and find ways to win games. I mean, they played Baylor twice. They'll probably play, I want to say, Kansas tomorrow if Kansas pulls this one off. But I think this team is good. I mean, I think the way that they play the number one defense in the Big 12, they pressure you. They have length. They're ultra physical. TJ Otzelberger, he's a great coach. He's a very underrated coach in the Big 12. He knows what he's doing, takes care of business. And Gabe Kousser is probably the most underappreciated, undervalued player in the Big 12. I mean, second team All Big 12, first team All Big 12 defense. I mean, that guy is so valuable to his squad, and he's been so good all year. Really, nobody talks about him. I mean, for a guy who was horrible last year to what he is this year, honestly, maybe he should have got most improved player. I mean, they would give it to a Kansas guy. You know how that goes. But Gabe Kousser, I mean, he's been so great. He meant so much to that team, and they're old. Gabe Kousser's old. Jaron Holmes is old. Outside of Lipsy, majority of those guys are old, so they know how to handle business.
King, there's one other thing, and trading texts back and forth sometimes with Craig or Paul, or sometimes with Paul during the game. In the last couple of weeks, Iowa State, the last, 5 or 6 days, Iowa State is 56 of 109 from the field. They would is it also not only are they being dominated on the defensive end or on the offensive boards by the opponent, but it seems like they are allowing an inordinate amount of shots right at the rim.
Yeah, and I think primarily that's due to them getting steals. And when you look at their turnover percentage and how much they turn people over, I mean, they're getting layups. They're getting easies. And a lot of times when you're getting those easies, I mean, your confidence starts growing. The harder you play on defense, you get a fast break layup, you get another one, all of a sudden your confidence is rolling, and now you're able to get downhill with ease. And these guys, I mean, Jaron Holmes, one of the best guards in the Big 12 when it comes to being able to use his body and shield off the guard defender and be able to finish at the rim. And Gabe Kousser, same thing. Lipsy, not really a three-point shooter, so what he does is get to the rim and find people. He's played really well, too. Undervalued freshman, Taman Lipsy has been phenomenal. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's primarily due to their defense and how they turn people over. They're getting a lot of easy layups.
King, Mark Adams is out at Texas Tech. Would you be surprised to see Kirby Hocutt go to the Scott Drew tree for Grant McCaslin, who's been there on the Texas Tech staff before, or maybe even Paul Mills?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going Grant McCaslin or Paul Mills. I mean, when you look at what Paul Mills is doing this year, he did something that hasn't been done, I think, in 50 years or since 1950, where I read something earlier. I mean, they went undefeated in conference, then won the conference tournament championship by 30. Like, that's complete domination. And honestly, do not be surprised if you see Paul Mills' team in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, because they're that good. And they have size. They're that good. And they have one of the best point guards in America, who's a Naismith finalist. So this team is talented. So if they go to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, I think it's really a no-brainer between Paul Mills or Grant McCaslin, and it's just kind of crazy to see those two guys battling for a job, such as Texas Tech, and then that'll be three Baylor coaches in the Big 12 competing against each other year in, year out.
Yeah, it would be.
Hey,
yeah.
Scott Drew used to not be the guy who couldn't coach. Now the whole league wants some of that action.
Yeah. It's amazing what happens when you win at the level that he wins. And, of course, with Driscoll's had success at North Florida. Obviously, you mentioned McCaslin and also with Paul Mills. All right, King, so everyone looks at Scott Drew, and we know that he's an amazing people think he's just like calm and quiet and genteel and all that, and he's a great person. But when he's mad, can you try to explain how mad, without ever using anything like other than darn it? What kind of mad have you seen him?
Yeah, no, I've seen Coach Drew absolutely pissed. I mean, the one thing he does every single time he's pissed, he's mad because his lip starts quivering. Like, it starts twitching. And as soon as you see that, Coach Drew is pissed. Like, the maddest that I've ever seen him be was one time we were told not to go play flag football, not to play intramural football because the coaches were scared that we could get hurt. So, one of our coaches is on IG Live, one of our players on IG Live, and one of the guys some random dude commented on there, you played great last night in the flag football game. And I think Coach Brooks happened to see it. So we walk into the locker room, and Coach Drew gives us all, like, pieces. He cuts off, like, a Big 12 championship banner, gives us all pieces, and says, all right, put them together and make this banner. So we put them together. And he told that one specific player, now take yours out. And when he took his out, Coach Drew, I have never seen him in my life just go off. He absolutely went in. But what was amazing was he went in without cursing. No matter of fact, he cursed 3 times. He cursed 3 times, and his rule is if you curse, you got to do 10 push-ups. So right after he got done, it was about 5 or 10 minutes of him just going in on his player. Right after he got done, he jumped down and did like 40 push-ups. it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. For a man to be able to go off and control his tongue so well, to only curse 3 times when he was that hot, and then to have the self-discipline to just drop down and do push-ups.
Yep.
That was incredible.
Did the locker room, or was it did everyone just explode? Like almost like it's like a release point?
Yeah, no, everybody honestly was in shock to see how mad he was. Everybody was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. We haven't seen Coach Drew on this level, because I've honestly ever seen Coach Drew get pissed, like genuinely pissed, probably like 3 times my whole life. So to see him get to that level, none of us have ever seen that before.
Yeah, all right, man, good stuff. Just truth serum. They did get punked. They did today, especially the last 8 to 12 minutes of the game on the boards, and also losing to Iowa State. Kansas has just won. They won handily, I think 78-61. They move on into the next round, and they'll take on the Cyclones. That place will be packed with those 2 fan bases, of course, locked in for that. King, thank you very much for giving us your time in Kansas City. Former Baylor guard, ESPN analyst, King McClure with us on 365 Sports. When we come back, much more to get to, including Mickey Spagnuolo for a little bit coming up off the post-combine. Craig's off the radar, Paul's top 5, and we might have one more college basketball analyst sometime early on, not early on, but maybe 10 or 15 minutes in to the 5 o'clock hour from Kansas City. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center just off Valley Mills in Waco. Cheyenne, Ashley, and Carol, they run it. Carol, of course, the owner, but Ashley and Cheyenne are just absolutely incredibly insightful when it comes to the cigar business. And also coffee beans. They have fresh coffee beans. They can grind them for you right in front of you while you wait, or you can take them home and do it yourself. But when it comes to cigars, it's pretty amazing. I can ask a question. I always try to test them when I walk in the door after reading something inside Cigar Aficionado, the magazine. And I'll ask them a question, and they know it. They know the trends in the cigar business. Oh, we know that Padron and Cohiba, how elite those cigars are. And then Aston and Macanudo. The other day I went in and got a box of Oliva, Churchill length. Ashley said, I think you're going to like these because of the kind of cigar that I normally like to smoke is a Churchill length and a little smooth. It doesn't need to be too harsh for me. And I usually, when I'm smoking the cigars, when I'm playing around at golf, it's just kind of something I like to do. It relaxes me. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. 3 people, Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne, that understand the business. CBD products, Vita Dreams, to help you at night get that a little bit extra sleep where you don't toss and turn. In the Town West Shopping Center, just off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
422, this is 365 Sports, the week after the NFL Combine. Of course, free agency about to open up as well. A lot of things to always get to. The NFL never stops. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on 365 Sports. Mickey, what kind of, anything at all, insight that you received from coming out of the Combine?
Not really. It's all encompassing, right? Doing the interviews, being able to, meet the players. I always think that's probably the most important thing that the team's accomplished there. From the workouts. If it's somebody you're really interested in, you're going to their pro day. Also, they tape all that stuff, David. So, yeah, I didn't get any feel for, okay, we're looking for this or we're looking for that. Talk to this guy or didn't talk to that guy. As a matter of fact, the majority of the coaches, especially the offensive coaches, including the head coach, basically Mike McCarthy was there for his, interview, and that was it. He kind of flew in and flew out because they've been busy making their adjustments and whatever they're adding to the offense with him in charge. They were in the process of doing that, and he thought that was more important than actually being at the combine.
Mickey, I know that Jerry Jones made, don't count us out for making a big move or something like that, but this is also the time of year, and I wonder if some of this is chum in the water for somebody to try to make a move to the Cowboys so they can unload something or get something that they either don't need or have an excess of or not, because every wide receiver is like, oh, hey, call me or do that. But do you think that they'll mostly stay status quo and a lot of this is just noise?
Well, you can say that, but you also got to have, depending on what you're doing, you got to have the cap space. And, currently, after franchising Tony Pollard, giving the second round restricted tender to Terrence Steele, they're, from what I can ascertain, they're about $16 million over the cap. So let's put that into perspective. The other thing, that's got to happen before they even entertain any of those possibilities, if they got to create some cap space. So they're going to probably have to do something with Dak Prescott's base salary. They're going to have to do, maybe somebody else, Zach Martin, to reduce the, his is $13.5 million base salary, to reduce that by maybe adding years, giving guaranteed money, making an adjustment to Ezekiel Elliott's base salary, which is 10.9, and maybe even Tyron Smith, who's 13.6. So they've got to make some adjustments to create room to be able to not only sign their own guys, but if they attempt to make some sort of splash, it can't be a real expensive splash unless they can structure the contract and backload it, because next year when the TV contract kicks in, the salary cap's going to go up about $20 million.
Mickey, is the cap funny money, or is you know what I mean? It just seems like it's there. I get it. Some teams just mortgage themselves out. Some have done it and it's worked, and it just seems like they just go do it again. How much of it is funny money?
Not a lot. It's pretty real, David. It's why you're all of a sudden this week seeing teams releasing guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
They signed them and they backloaded base salaries, give them signing bonuses that they could spread out, and then all of a sudden it catches up with you. And if the performance doesn't match how much you spent and overspent probably in free agency to get these guys, then you're releasing guys. And sometimes releasing some pretty good players, but you just can't afford them. So it is not like any of the other leagues. This is a hard cap, and you got to account. And even when you release the guys, if you have already paid signing bonus and you prorated it over several years, then you release the guy before that proration is up, you got to account for that, and you don't have a player. And I'll give you a prime example with Ezekiel Elliott. You know, his base salary this year's $10.9 million. And he's got prorated signing bonus that's still got to be accounted for. He's got also restructure bonus that has to be accounted for because you've already paid that money. And if the Cowboys cut ties with him March 16th and don't make them a June 1 release, they're on the books for $11.8 million for Ezekiel Elliott. So there's nothing funny about it. It catches up with you. That's why you're seeing what's going on with the Rams. Okay, yeah, I got it. They won that Super Bowl, but now Matthew Stafford's contract is kicking in, and they can't afford all these other luxury-type guys. I saw where Kansas City had to let some guys go. Tampa Bay, I read something, they were $55 million over the cap because of Tom Brady retiring. So, yeah, no, it's real. You can massage it, and you can push some of the payments back, but at some point, if you gave a guy a $140 million contract and the last, say, 2 years, there's $40 to $50 million base salaries, you probably can't afford it. And you got to extend it to spread it out, or if he's not good enough, you're going to cut him and eat that money.
Yeah, Mickey, I think what a lot of fans are wanting is because they saw the Rams do that, push all their chips in the middle to get that one Super Bowl. They were fine with doing that. The Cowboys have not been to that point yet, and maybe they never will be, but I think that's where the fans' frustration comes in because they saw the Rams do it, and they almost don't care because it's been so long since the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl.
But there's no guarantee that if you do that, you're going to win the Super Bowl, right? What if you do that and you don't win the Super Bowl and you corrupt your roster for the next 2 or 3 years? You can't draft that well. And you don't have draft picks if you traded guys like the Rams did to try to get some of those guys. And now they got to get rid of guys like Ramsey. They don't know if they can afford him anymore. So it's a dicey proposition, and you're no guarantees if you do it, you win. And then and if you don't, how pissed off will the fans be for the next 2 or 3 years when you're suffering from a cap problem?
Dallas got 2 5s. They got a 6th and compensatory picks. When you get extra compensatory picks, and San Francisco got 3 3s, Washington gets an early 3, I think. Do you get extra money in your cap as far as your rookie cap when you get compensatory picks?
The rookie cap is figured on your pick, right? There's projections now, and if you get compensatory picks, then you can add to your rookie allotment, but it doesn't affect the total cap. It still's got to fit into the total cap, right? If you're a team that has 3 first-round picks, well, they figure what the price is for those contracts ahead of time and figure that into your rookie amount. And it's not just the draft picks, Smokey. It also, you got to fit your undrafted free agents that you sign into that amount, and anybody else you bring in at some point as a rookie to start the season. You got to fit into that amount. That's another thing that teams have to make sure that they have that money available going into the draft. You can't say, well, I'll just make room for that later. No, you got to have that money to tender those contracts immediately.
Mickey, how deep are you into your draft research so far?
Not very. It's too early. What is it, March 8th, 9th? I usually start kind of getting into it probably the 1st of April.
Okay.
Where you get a better idea of maybe what the team's looking for, and you've seen what happens in some of these pro day workouts.
Okay, so even that being said, from what you've done so far, is there a player that would theoretically be available at 26 right now in your mind that you think fits what the Cowboys do really well?
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten there because how do you project 25 picks?
Yeah.
Right? And so you can think positions, but I think I've said this before, you name a position and I'll give you a need. Now, in the first round, within reason, right? They're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round. But other than that, would you say if they drafted somebody with that 26th pick, which is almost a second round pick, right? I don't know that you could argue and say, well, they don't need that. Well, they do need it. They need running backs. They need wide receivers. They need tight ends. They can use an interior offensive lineman. You always need the defensive end. We know they need linebackers and safeties and a cornerback. Now, I'm not taking a kicker in the first round, right? But if they took any of what I just mentioned, would you say, well, they didn't need to do that?
No. Actually, to me, that's kind of a fun and a nice draft position to be in then, right?
Well, yeah, exactly, because if you get in and you're at 26 and you're pigeonholing yourself into a position, chances are you're going to take somebody that probably you shouldn't take in the first round. I always, this is going back many years, but Shante Carver, defensive end, right? They needed a defensive end. They were convinced they needed a defensive end. And when they got to their pick late in the first round, he was like the last possible one. Well, he wasn't a first-round pick. And then you not only pay the price for what it costs for a first-round guy that's not first-round talent, but then you pay the price of, well, why did you take that guy? Well, everybody wanted a defensive end, and the defensive ends were gone by then. So I think at 26, the more flexibility you have, the better off you will draft. And to the point where and Stephen Jones talked about this, that they usually have about 16 to 18, 18 to 20 first-round grades in every draft. And so generally when you're taking somebody that late, you don't have a first-round grade on them unless you get lucky, right? When they took CeeDee Lamb, they had no idea CeeDee Lamb was going to be there late in the teens that year. But all of a sudden, he showed up, and it's like, okay, I got to take him. This is the bargain at this point. So, yeah, it's difficult, and that's why sometimes when you're in the late 20s, 30 or higher, if somebody wants to trade out, chances are the talent you get, if it's high in the second round, is not much different than what you're getting at the end of the first round.
The good news for Cowboys fans, Mickey, I just looked it up, is that really nobody picked after Shante Carver until 33 was anybody you'd write home about, but that was at 33 the Rams took Isaac Bruce. So
yeah, and so yeah, so so if you had said, all right, well, let me take something else and take a defensive end in the second round, right? Because I think the only other defensive end I want to say that was available, and it was a 3-4 defensive end, I think Houston took some big old guy that might as well have been a defensive tackle. And that's all the defensive ends, I think, that were left at that point in that round. They should have just passed because they surely didn't get a second. They barely got the first contract out of them, let alone the second contract. So, yeah, you have to, you have to be very careful when you're picking that late to be very flexible.
Mickey, thank you very much. As always, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Thursdays with us in the 4 o'clock hour. And we'll have plenty of time to discuss. His free agency opens at noon on Sunday. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Is it noon Sunday?
Yeah. By the way, Smokey, would you like to know who the Cowboys' second-round pick was?
In what year?
In 1994. In that same draft.
It wasn't Bethea, was it?
No. This one, they got the second-round pick right.
And I'm not talking about Elvin Bethea.
No. it was Larry Allen.
Okay, well,
nailed that one.
There you go. Yeah, you always wish you always look back 5 years later on two things: the NFL draft, and then also the National Signing Day, the way recruiting rankings. Where were people? What schools? What teams? What players? That's always kind of fun to do. Although now, golly, in college football, that can change so much. Even you have to wait 5 years for a career to end because you could be at 4 different schools, it seems like to me. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak has Off the Radar. We'll have Paul's Top 5 in about an hour, and Cindy Machado on the chat room. Cindy, very, very patient and always asking about the Pac-12. Really, it's the wind blowing. Like today, it might be 9 miles an hour from the south, and in 3 or 4 days, there might be 20-mile-an-hour winds. There's nothing new. Not sure when anything else will be new. There's articles written. There are comments. There's speculation. And right now, that's all it is as we move forward yet through another day here on March the 9th. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas with Dr. Steve Childress. Your comfort matters. And that's one of the reasons that for the longest of time, I didn't go to the dentist because I kind of knew that I probably was not maintaining the most healthy dental work, flossing or whatever. I brush my teeth all the time, yes, but really kind of watching what I was doing on an everyday basis for maintenance. Stonewood Dental will handle that. They specialize in fillings, crowns, sealants, periodontal therapy, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, fluoride, implants, bridges, dentures, partials, treatment of TMG, full mouth restoration, biostatic dentistry. Their team is phenomenal. 11 hygienists, 5 dentists, and a supporting staff that's fantastic from the time that you need an appointment to the time the day before or two when they remind you of that appointment even that day. Teeth cleanings every 6 months matter. I have one coming up in the month of in the month of March. Avoid major problems and decay. Dr. Steve Childress has me on the right track when it comes to my dental work. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The Butcher Shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Do this Tuesdays, Thursdays at around 4:45. Just taking a look at a grab bag of stories that want to explore further, or at least just make mention of that we otherwise would not get to. So a few things off the radar currently, and this is not something we've talked about just yet, and it actually just came down a few minutes ago. Official word from Kansas on the health of head coach Bill Self. He was obviously announced as earlier today as having had a medical issue and having to have been hospitalized, and that he would miss the game that they just won moments ago, the quarterfinal contest against West Virginia. So KU wins despite not having Bill Self on the sidelines. And if they continue winning this tournament, all those will be without Bill Self on the sidelines, because he is not going to coach during the Big 12 tournament. That now becoming official. He underwent a procedure, although they did not name the specifics, but did clarify that it was not a heart attack, but didn't go any further than that.
It was not a heart attack.
Right.
Okay, because that was being kind of reported by some people in various ways. Okay.
I was going to finish with that, is that it was not a heart attack despite what some of the scuttlebutt was. That's been ruled out. Statement released said KU men's basketball coach Bill Self is a patient at the University of Kansas Health System. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Steven Stites wants to clarify that Coach Self did not suffer a heart attack, as reported by some media. He arrived at the emergency department last night and underwent a standard procedure that went well. He's expected to make a full recovery. There will be no further medical details released for now. So that is the latest. He will miss the tournament again, as the school said that he's recovering from an illness, and that Norm Roberts, assistant coach, will serve as the acting head coach moving forward. So there you go. Bill Self missing the rest of the Big 12 tournament, but having not suffered a heart attack, which is a bit of positive news.
When you got the text from Amanda that she was on her way to the hospital in Kansas City.
She's the one who sent me that graphic that I sent to Garrett, by the way.
Yeah, and that's great news that it was not a heart attack. And there were some reports, and I never did even retweet any of them other than the fact he was not the Kansas release. But, when your program is as good as that one is, it's like when Jerome Tang took over once or twice for Scott. You're an autopilot, but you're kind of wondering about how could this affect anything going forward.
Yeah, and it's good news, and he'll hopefully be back coaching next week if he's ready for the stress of the NCAA tournament, and But I did, guys, I posted this question to her because I was at a doctor's appointment when it happened. So, okay, I told you this. I was at a doctor's appointment, so I didn't answer anybody's text because I was at the doctor. And so when I got done and walked out and saw it, I was like, oh, man. And I knew that she knew where I was, so she wasn't like, why are you talking to me? But she was really stressed. So when we kind of found out that, like, could have been this, could have been that, but my friend Kyle Cornish sent me a text because he has some people inside said that, you know, kind of that news. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was something they needed to take care of. And I said, all right, so he's going to be fine. So I can ask you this question now because you were really concerned. If you were a firefighter and there's a burning building and 3 of us are stuck in there, it's me, your mother, and Bill Self. Oh. You can save 2 of us. Who are you saving? And she's like, well, I mean, sorry. And so
one is family, and the other one she wishes was family.
Yeah.
And
so
one's about to be, you're not yet.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And even if I was, I still think she'd save Bill Self. Right. So I really got to get on the stick here. And here's what I counter with. I said, listen, if it was my mom and you and David Ortiz, I'd be like, sorry, Big Papa, you're not hitting home runs for me anymore. I love you. But now's your time.
You have to change your mind.
Yeah.
Yep, so we will see where Bill Self is coaching again here in the very near future. But first things first, he needs to get his health, obviously under control. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, they lost in their first-round tournament action last night. Had wondered how they were going to respond to the ending with Mark Adams. I keep wanting to say that he was dismissed or fired, but it was technically he made the decision. You know, I don't know. It probably was as much a mutual thing, I would imagine, just given kind of how things went. Doesn't really matter because he's gone. They're starting a coaching search, and their season now is officially over. Texas Tech announcing they will not pursue any postseason opportunities. That means that they are done in 2022-23. As far as this campaign goes, it will all wrap up with last night's loss, and the Red Raiders finished the season at 16-16. And will now look forward to a full-blown coaching search and, could go the Scott Drew coaching tree route, as we've mentioned multiple times now. Could go any other, avenue, as there's, dozens and dozens of coaches out there, but certainly not dozens and dozens that are probably qualified for that job. So there will be a narrow pool that'll probably be pretty identifiable that you come up with some candidates, as we've mentioned several of those guys. But I'm very curious to see how this goes. I mean, they're relaunching their whole athletic department as far as the top 2 sports go within about 3 years of each other. And they've had to do this now with basketball a couple of times here recently. So, it'd be very interesting to see what happens with that. But they are not playing anymore. No NIT or anything like that.
CBI, whatever it's called, whatever that. I would love to know if at least one Texas Tech fan, when the news of Mark Adams and not being suspended, and then you knew where this was going, I would just love for someone to be truthful. How one Texas Tech fan that went, well, Chris Beard's available.
Oh, I saw the joke. I mean, and I'm sure it was mostly a joke, although you never know. There's enough crazy. I mean, there really is. That's one thing you have learned through social media, is that there are legitimately like nuts people out there, right? Like nutso people. So I'm sure there's actually somebody out there that is legitimately thinking like, no, seriously, we should bring Chris Beard back. I bet you there's at least one person that's like that, but certainly a lot of people were having fun with the
I
jokes.
guarantee you there was some that, he wasn't found.
Look, the amount of tortillas that got thrown at the bus when he came back would have shut down a Taco Bell for the day if they didn't have them. So I don't know if he's good. Like, that's the one thing, it happens a lot of places. And I'll just say, when kind of some stuff got cleared about, who was at fault at Baylor and all this, there were people like, well, why don't they just bring Art back? And I'm like, look, if you just read the details of that lawsuit, would you want to come back? Like, that's one of those things. So even if you were 100% right, the way that you were after you were gone, the way that things were going, you're not going to want to come back. So, like Chris Beard, he's not, like, he's available, but he would have to be really in a weird mindset to want to walk back into that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
He's going to have other options, and why rehash all of that when you can just go somewhere else and just start anew and not have all that baggage? Like, that's silly to think that he'd go back. But they are looking for a head coach, so I guess anything's in the works as far as the rumor mill goes. How many times do you guys recall, and this is not a question I thought I'd ever ask, but how many times do you guys recall hearing Dick Vitale calling NCAA tournament games?
How many times?
Yeah. That you can
This
really
year?
think of.
No,
Ever.
NCAA tournament, like ever.
NCAA tournament games. How many times have you heard?
Occasionally he would be in that rotation, like Billis is. You know, like
You're talking about in the tournament itself.
The tournament games.
I don't think ever.
He's never called one.
I
He's
don't-
never called
yeah,
one.
I don't think ever, yeah.
At least not for U.S. audiences. He has, however, internationally. You've heard, if you've watched overseas, you've heard Dick Vitale, but you would probably think that you've heard him, right? You would just assume that you've heard him call NCAA tournament games. Maybe if you were like in Singapore and they had ESPN radio or something and you heard it that way. But as far as U.S. audiences go, he's never called a March Madness game. And apparently there were some people working to rectify this. A very interesting story from Sports Illustrated that CBS and Turner were both willing to allow Dick Vitale to call some NCAA tournament action, but he apparently declined the offer, saying that he wanted to remain loyal to ESPN, where he's been employed for over 40 years. Apparently, CBS Sports Chairman Sean McManus had reached out, asked him to call 1 or 2 tournament games, but he passed because of that loyalty and said later on, I was flattered when Sean asked, but I'm 83 now, and I want to end my career with just ESPN on my resume. What they did for me this last year has been amazing. They've treated me like royalty. It's been 44 years just with them, and I just want to have ESPN on my resume. He joined the network in 1979, said that CBS has previously asked him to call games as far back as 10 to 20 years ago, but that ESPN then was blocking him from being able to do that. Now they're more open-minded because, shoot, he's 83, he's been through hell and back, and who knows how much basketball is left in his future, but now he's not even interested in it. So I thought that was really interesting. That came from Jimmy Traynor over at SI. He said that ESPN president Jimmy Pitaro did give him a blessing to do it, but again, he just wants to remain loyal. So that's very interesting. I would never have thought about. That's why I asked the question. It was a trick question because you just assume Dick Vitale's called March Madness, but he hasn't.
Because Billis does. Like, yeah. He
Well,
gets
and
in
that's
that
the thing about what Dick Vitale's saying, and I'll tell you, I'll share this with you. We've always had Dick Vitale on at least once a year, usually towards the end of February and early March. And a couple of years ago when Baylor made their run, of course, he's been through the throat cancer and been through a lot. I texted him, and he had done a game. I heard him on that weekend, and he said, I'm really basically limited to doing the games that I'm scheduled to do and no appearances. Now, maybe he'll come on Sunday for a quick snippet about the seedings or whatever else, but he's really trying to protect his voice as well. But yeah, there's crossover, and we've even seen it now on some of the NFL broadcasts that there's a crossover. I would love to, but that's okay. It's his career. It's his decision, and
of course it's okay.
Neat that McManus did what he did, at least to offer that as available.
Yeah, I mean, not saying it's. I mean, it's totally up to him, and I think it's cool, and just highlighting that he's decided to remain loyal. But it's also cool that network execs are trying to give him the opportunity and get that on his resume.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just a feel-good story all the way around. And if Dickie V decided, hey, I'm going to go jump on CBS and call a basketball game, I'm sure people would love it. And if he goes the route he's going, apparently, then I'm sure people will be fine with that as well. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting behind-the-scenes talk. And best of luck to Dickie V. He did say, however, that he does have one dream remaining in his broadcasting career, and that is that he wants to call a basketball game on ESPN, of course, with Charles Barkley. So that is Dickie V's one remaining big broadcasting wish, per the article, is that he wants to call a ESPN game with Charles Barkley.
You know who's one of Charles Barkley's great friends? Scott Drew. Fantastic friend. Oh, absolutely. That entire...
I thought you were going to say Michael Jordan. I was not anymore.
Not anymore. But, no, absolutely incredibly. They've been on podcasts together. Who's the guy that Ernie?
Yeah, Ernie Johnson.
Incredibly close friends with the family and also with Scott Drew. They were always involved in a lot of things the year that Baylor made the run for the national title.
Ernie Johnson, the greatest sports television show host in history.
Maybe, yeah.
I know this is off topic, but I'll just tell you that what he manages and the way that he can weave in and out of big personalities with loud voices and
egos
and be fun and be funny and keep on topic, but get out of the way it's
fantastic.
Artistry.
Yeah, no, and I say egos. Shaq and Kenny Smith and Barkley, most of them, They actually seem to have they kind of checked it at the door because they will bing and zing each other. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting little note there, and just a couple more to go here. I'm trying to decide which route I want to go, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty big news stick with basketball a little bit. Kevin Durant, I'm sure you guys saw the clip of him in warm-ups, getting ready to make his big debut at home with his new franchise, the Suns. And as he's going through warm-ups, ends up twisting and spraining his ankle. It was just a random slip. It's just happened, just one of those things. And now, he's undergone an MRI as of today, but the fear is that he could miss the remainder of the regular season. He was in a walking boot as he left the arena. The Suns did beat the Thunder, regardless of his absence, but obviously everybody down in the dumps, including his head coach, Monty Williams, who just said, I feel bad for him. You just see his face, and, you can tell what he's feeling, and you just don't want anybody to feel that way that you care about. But the Suns still went on to win, but now looking like he could miss the remainder of the regular season. That's just, you talk about
star-crossed.
Yeah, I mean, but what a blue ball scenario as well. I don't know how else to put it. Of you're so excited probably as a Suns fan showing up for that game, and Kevin Durant gets hurt in freaking pregame warm-ups. It ends up might miss the regular season, the remaining regular season. Just, man, that is brutal for the Suns. But I guess there's some outside hope that he could return. Still awaiting official word on exactly how much time. May miss 4 to 6 weeks is one of the reports that's out there. So yeah, we will see. But not the most ideal, or definitely not the dream scenario for making your big home debut with your brand new basketball team.
I saw that, and it was one of those he could have curled that around and
broke his ankle. Yeah.
He had the Achilles, and I mean that's like getting shot in the back of your leg. I've always heard that, but he's fragile. Great, among the best players to ever play the game, and I thought when Phoenix picked him up, that just solidified them against Denver in the Western Conference Finals and maybe the NBA Championship Series.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he needs to get back before we dive. I mean, I know there's a lot of scuttlebutt and discussion about that, and probably a lot of it including Kevin Durant in those plans. But, yeah, that definitely takes you a little bit of a detour. Need to see how he comes back and how healthy he'll be when he does return. But when he does, I'm sure that'll be a great moment, but just a weird deal. And I don't know exactly, I don't know if that was a mop guy issue. I was just thinking about, oh, man, one of the mop guys didn't forget to, dry up the court right before Kevin Durant went through the layup line. Hopefully, I'm sure if you're one of those guys, you're looking is there a puddle or spots on the ground next to him? Hopefully the ground's dry, and that was just all Kevin Durant's body rejecting whatever he was trying to do, and not, some sweat on the ground leading to this superstar missing the regular season. But I'll end with this. Kelvin Beachum is one of our good buddies, a friend of the show, NFL offensive lineman, and was a member of the Arizona Cardinals. Spent 3 seasons with them, about to be a free agent. But he was on Arizona Sports Radio yesterday talking to Burns and Gambo. And he was asked about Kyler Murray and what Kyler Murray needs to do in order to be great, I guess was the way that the question was phrased. And our buddy Kelvin Beachum said that Kyler
Texas
needs to grow up. He said he needs to be a man and grow up. It's not that complicated. You got to be a leader. And he said that it's not a completed process. He said that he doesn't think that Kyler's done, growing or maturing or evolving or any of that. But as of right now, that's what is missing. But it's not a completed process. He said, I didn't say he lacks leadership. I just think he needs to grow up a little bit. I think if he has the ability and willingness to grow up, he's going to be just fine. They paid him for a reason. They paid him because of his talent. He has the ability to lead. When you're in that position, we need you to lead more. You're the face of the franchise. You have to lead in every single capacity. So a far cry from Patrick Peterson's comments that were far more direct and to the point and harsh in regards to Kyler. But, just some friendly advice, and whether he's willing to take it or not, that's certainly not the first time he's heard that, but that's just some insight from a guy who we know well enough to know that he's not blowing smoke or, trying to grab headlines or anything like that. That's Kelvin Beachum just being 100% truthful, and I don't think him saying that really comes as a surprise. I think everybody who's watching Kyler Murray can say, no, the dude's ultra talented, but clearly there's a little bit of a maturation that still needs to occur for him to be amongst the greats.
Oh, I'll take Kelvin Beachum's word on nearly anything.
Anytime.
He's as good as it comes. He's 3 years, I think, there. He's made some good money, incredible person, very much giving. He's going to be a CEO of a company once he decides to retire, if not already. So, okay.
Yeah, it's one thing with Patrick Peterson saying it and you feel like he's hating on you or something like that. But if Kelvin Beachum said it, and I would imagine Kyler knows Kelvin well enough, that I would hope that would hit home.
More
That's just
big brotherly or, friend. Like, it's not – there's not a malicious bone in – Kelvin Beachum's body. He could that's not how he's built. So.
And like I said, I'm sure that's the 100th time Kyler's heard that. So ultimately it's up to him, but nobody's denying the talent. So there you go. Those are a few things off the radar.
All right, Craig, thank you. Kansas won big by 17. West Virginia was kind of hanging around, but KU just took care of their business. Iowa State down 8 at one point, 50-42 to Baylor. Went on a 28-10 run, hammered the Bears on the boards, 44-17. They're into that game. Semifinals with KU tonight. Texas will play Oklahoma State, TCU, and Kansas State also tonight. Those are the games around the Big 12 up in Kansas City. Speaking of which, Kendall Kout, who covered the game in Kansas City, has been rummaging around the wreckage looking for the last Baylor rebound. He'll join us today at around 5:10. We'll have him and Paul, of course, with his top 5. By the way, one of the games, that UConn-Providence game, UConn is a top 10 team, probably a fairly good seed. Once led Providence by, I think, 26. Had that thing down to about 5 as Providence started to put pressure on the Huskies. UConn ended up winning that game 73-66 to move on. And UCLA beat Colorado, second-ranked UCLA, who will be most likely a number 1 seed in the tournament this week when they have March Madness released on Sunday. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com online can give you options by using code words for various pizza, pepperoni magnifico to whatever 1, 2, or 3 topping pizzas you want. They have pizza bowls as well. There's a coupon or a code for that too if you go online and order at Marcos.com wherever you have a Marcos Pizza. And in Waco, in the area here, there are 5 locations in Woodway, Hewitt, Robinson, China Spring, and Belmead. And it was just a few years back there were none, as they continue to be a very fast-rising pizza franchise. Bob Mock, the owner in Central Texas. If you like Marco's Pizza, pizza lovers get it. 5 locations in Waco, or go to marcos.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
During Ram Truck Month, get incredible deals on Ram trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco. Come see why Ram continues to win awards year after year. Browse online or come shop the greatest selection of new car and truck inventory in stock today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, we earlier King McClure joined us, and he didn't waste much time saying what he thought he watched today in Kansas City, that Baylor got punked by Iowa State. The rebounding totals were staggering, 44-17, and that's his view. He was very much kind of giving us what he thinks Scott Drew might do, and then again, what can he do? I mean, this is who they are. Kendall Kout was there. He covers Baylor men's basketball, and you know, Kendall, when they were on like a 1 point, I think it was 2.5 per points per possession, looked like they had the game exactly the way it wanted. But, man, they were absolutely dominated inside on both ends of the court. What's the wreckage look like in your opinion?
I think it's pretty bad. They have locker room access now at the Big 12 tournament. So I was able to go into the locker room, talk to Jalen, Adam, Key, LJ, John for quite a bit of time. And everybody knew what the obvious answer was for what ailed Baylor today, rebounding. What was it, 44-15, I think was maybe the final number I saw. Iowa State has more offensive rebounds than Baylor has total rebounds. Iowa State's starting point guard, Damon Lipsey, has 11 rebounds. Baylor's starting fifth-year senior, who started on the national championship team, has 0 rebounds in 29 minutes. And I like Flo Thamba a lot as a human being, but it's not acceptable for him to have 0 rebounds on a day you're getting punked on the glass. I mean, that's a situation where somebody needs to hit somebody down low, bump them, whatever has to happen. But just a really disappointing performance for Baylor. And to now lose to Iowa State 3 times on the year, 2 times in 5 days. You just got punked by him in Waco. You got punked by him in Kansas City. You got punked by him in Ames. Just absolutely awful. I mean, Jalen Bridges told me they were men today. We were boys. And I think that sums it up absolutely well. Just did not expect Baylor to lose that way. I can't remember ever watching a Baylor team get crushed on the boards like that. Quite frankly, I can't even really remember watching a college basketball team that's not, a SWAC team versus Baylor ever get punked like that. So I really do think when King said punked, Smokey, I think he absolutely is right about that.
Baylor's 22-10 heading into the tournament. They'll probably be a 3 seed now. Kendall. Now, the argument can be made that half of their losses are to 2 teams in Kansas State and Iowa State. 2 of their other losses are to Marquette and Virginia. So everything that they've had is a good loss when it comes to quad one. Where is their reason for legitimate optimism, and where's their reason for legitimate pessimism?
I think legitimate optimism is if the team gets fully healthy again, and sorry if there's some background noise as you deal with the struggles of Kansas City, fellas. But I think the legitimate reason for optimism is that Langston Love, I expect to play next week. Scott Drew mentioned in the post-game presser when I asked him a question about rotations that he thought Langston would be back for the NCAA tournament. Dale Bonner's played quite well lately. I think once you do that, you can shorten the rotation for other guys. Jalen Bridges played 38 minutes of incredible basketball today. I think he can play all 40 minutes in an NCAA tournament game. So you take some guys out of the rotation that aren't playing well, feel optimistic there. You mentioned, Paul, about 5 of the 10 losses being to Iowa State and K-State. Maybe you feel better when you have different guys who can go in those games. If Keontae George isn't asked to do quite as much, Adam Flagler can catch a breather because Dale Bonner showed he could be a backup point guard again, like they thought in the preseason. You get those things going. Baylor shot like they shot today, and you just figure that Baylor will not get out-rebounded like that again. Baylor may lose because defense is bad, and it has been bad almost all season, but they shouldn't lose a game like that again. Now, saying you won't lose a game like that again doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I think the pessimistic case, though, when I think about that, Paul, is just the defense has been bad all season. You can play zone, you can play man, you can switch everything, you can trap everything. At some point, you are what you are after 32 games. What Baylor is not a good defensive team. So they're going to go as far as Keontae George, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer can shoot them. Hopefully that's far enough that Baylor's Houston again. But you do wonder if Baylor has a 4 of 19 3-point shooting day. This team is not like the national championship team where Baylor could shoot poorly against a team as talented as that Villanova squad was and come back and win. They've got to shoot well in the NCAA tournament to have a shot to make it deep.
Kendall, is it fair to say this is like the Bryles era Baylor football squads where you just got to score a bunch of points and hope that you get enough stops along the way?
I think that's exactly right, Craig. I just think it's hard to have any faith in this defense. I talked to Keontae for a while after the game, and he mentioned that he felt like all they had to do was rebound and get a little bit better attention on the scouting report, but the defense was getting better. Keontae George knows a lot more about basketball than me, but I do think that, is something he wants to believe. But they just have to show it. They had a good defensive performance against Gonzaga in South Dakota. But any other game this year, even the big games Baylor's won, UCLA, KU, it's been the offense that carried Baylor. And so I just don't know why we would expect after 32 games suddenly the defense is going to be great. I do think it's like those Bryles teams in the respect of they got to outscore people by a lot more, and so hopefully that can keep happening for Baylor. But as that era showed on the field, that's a risky formula if you want to be a national champion.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as Iowa State goes, I mean, they've obviously been through their own ups and downs. I mean, everybody in the Big 12 has to some extent, but I mean, to go 3-0 like you said, I mean, that's just not something that you expect to happen. What is it about the Cyclones that they are such a bad matchup, but also what do you just see from them in general as they move forward now into the rest of the postseason?
Greg, I think Iowa State's a bad matchup because they can get so physical on defense. Baylor plays a game where they want to move around, they want to work off the ball. They don't always want to have to make the quickest decision. They want to take you off the dribble. Well, Iowa State gets in your face, makes it hard for those off-ball cuts to work, makes it tough for Baylor to get to the rim. So that's where they're really excellent. Iowa State went on that 4-9 stretch in the season, which could offer hope for Baylor that their recent malaise is not terminal to the season. But I think Iowa State showed they've got good players. Taman Lipsey was starting to shoot a little bit more in the second half. They're a team that I think could make a run in the NCAA tournament because nobody plays hard defense like them in a lot of these other leagues. And so if you're let's say it's a Sweet 16 game and you're UCLA, well, you haven't played a team that can defend like Iowa State. That's a chance that UCLA could have a disappointing end of their season. So Iowa State, as long as they don't have a bad shooting day, which they're capable of, I think Iowa State's a team that really could make a run in March. So that also might be some solace for Baylor fans that Iowa State's a good team. They're a tough team. And maybe they're just a tough team that Baylor played on 2 bad days in the last week.
Kendall, I know this maybe sounds like I'm directing a little bit at Flo Thamba, but, we're talking big boy athletics. He's been a phenomenal player for them. No one started more or played more games in Baylor men's basketball history. He's taken advantage of having the extra year. But it's kind of hard to watch lately, and maybe more than lately, with him around the rim, with his ability either strength in his hands, which could crush mine, and or ability to control a ball anywhere around the rim. He missed a dunk today. That happens. But still, the ability to just go up strong, handling the basketball, got no rebounds. You'd think one of them would have landed in his lap. Is he only as good as others inside around him?
That's a difficult question, Smokey, but I respect you asking it because that's the thing you have to wonder about today. I didn't get a chance to talk to Flo. I planned to do it, but he was there for a while. Like, he made himself available, but I was talking to some other guys first. There's really, to me, there are days, you can do some spin zone or, talk for the guys if you're me or you're somebody else. You just can't spin this performance, right? You are a fifth-year senior, all the accolades you mentioned, Smokey, and you get 0 rebounds, which is not acceptable on a day where nobody else is rebounding well. you've got to be the guy after Flo Thomas that goes out and rebounds. So, I mean, I don't want that guy to get a flagrant foul, but he should have been, I think, pushing the limits about what's flagrant, what's anything else, if he has no rebounds in those 29 minutes. And then, again, I know we all don't like to call out these guys because they're younger guys, they're developing people, just as we all are every day, but especially at that age in their lives. But when Caleb Lohner came in with 2.5 minutes left and nobody boxed out the free throw shooter, and Tamin Lipsey just went in and got the ball, laid it in easily for a layup. I mean, no play better encapsulated the day for Baylor. It was just like they were out tough. And it's just disappointing to see because part of why I get kind of passionate about this, and I know a lot of people do, is this team has a lot of talent. These are all good dudes. The coaching staff, same deal, great guys, great coaches. And it's just frustrating because you feel like they're leaving something on the table with how they're performing lately.
This is a team that could, outside of Flo, theoretically, and we know Keontae George, all be back next season, Kendall. Let's just take a deep run off the table. Say that doesn't happen in this tournament. What do they need to build? How do you think they will build the team with some of these parts returning to solve some of these issues?
Yep. So, Paul, I would be shocked if John does not come back. So I think John will be back. We'll see if Jalen's back in the sense that Jalen Bridges has another game like that in the NCAA tournament. I would think he'll go through the NBA draft process, and pretty easy to really like the way that guy plays basketball with how effective he's been lately. He's a good defender. So you just kind of wonder who all comes back. I would assume somebody will try and make LJ a big offer in the portal. I know he loves Baylor. I hope Baylor can put together an offer that's comparable if that happens. But you would wonder with LJ if, somebody might make a portal offer to him. That's, Matt Meyer, if that's what happened with him going to Illinois, that's certainly what it sounds like. So there'll be portal opportunities for people at Baylor. I would be absolutely floored if Adam Flagler comes back. I think he's going to be an NBA player next season, so I think he's gone. So I think the question becomes, do you trust LJ to maybe be the point guard? They've got Jacoby Walter coming in. Miro Little's coming in as well. I think they probably will have to portal a guard. And then even if Jalen comes back, I think they might have to look at portaling a wing as well. And I think Baylor will probably just gamble between the 5-star freshman they've got coming in from Arizona. Josh O should be back. And then John, I think, will definitely be back. That trio, with another year of John to recover from his injury, that'll get it done inside. And you just hope the defense is a lot better next season to make up for the offense not being as good with Adam and Keontae gone. And I'm hopeful that LJ will come back to Baylor. I don't have any inside info telling me he's not. And I think he really does just think about it, day at a time. I got to grind through the season. But I would expect a lot of people, if you're a rich school, I don't know why you wouldn't make LJ Cryer a big offer. And I hope if you're a rich Baylor donor, you would say, we'll make one right back to him.
Kendall, how have your expectations as far as the remainder of this season, the postseason, how have they perhaps changed as of late, or are they about the same as they were?
I think I'm a little more down on this team now, Craig, than I would have been recently. I think the thing is just those two games like that, it just always seems to be a new problem with the defense. They get something fixed, a new problem pops up. They do this, can't rebound. They do this, they can't guard people out in front of you. And so that's just my concern. Is I don't know how this defense gets better. And then it comes down to shooting. Could Baylor get hot from the field for 5 games, make the national championship? They could. But I could also see, Baylor goes 3 of 18 from 3, can't defend, and then suddenly they're losing a 3-14 game as well. And if you had told me that in early November that would happen to Baylor, I would have said no way. So I think the floor is much lower for Baylor. I think the ceiling is still very high for this team, but the floor is both much more probable and it's a lot lower than I would have thought even 2 or 3 weeks ago.
What kind of team they need to match up with a team that's like them in the postseason?
I think they need a team that can't kind of get in your face and guard like Iowa State can, Paul. So I think UCLA to me is the perfect example of what Baylor can be at its best. UCLA doesn't defend you up in your face. They kind of play a more lackadaisical defense, but they're going to try and score 1 million points a game like they've done quite a bit. And so I think when you look at a team like UCLA, that's a team you'd be happy if Baylor is the 2 seed or the 3 seed in that region. But I do agree with you, Paul. If it's a team like K-State or a team like Iowa State, you don't feel real good for Baylor doing that matchup. Luckily, there aren't a lot of teams out there like those 2 teams. But if the bracket comes out for Baylor, you want to see elite offenses matched up with Baylor, not elite defenses.
Kendall, I was just curious, your thoughts. There's a ton of storylines around the rest of the league, obviously, right now. But Mark Adams in particular, just from a basketball perspective and having paid close attention to Texas Tech, just your thoughts on the turnover that's coming there.
Very unique situation, Craig. Kind of there were whispers in the media circles before all of the recent news about his statements came out or whether he spat on a player, that there were people at Tech that wanted to move on from him, that he didn't get along well with donors. I don't know that all that stuff's necessarily true, but I can just tell you, Craig, I heard a lot of whispers about that from media folks who'd be at a site about what was going on there. So very strange that you go from the Sweet 16 one year to the reports that everybody on the team was going to transfer out is what I think Jeff Goodman said if Mark Adams stayed. I don't know what happened. It seemed like that was his dream job, a Texas Tech alumni. He had owned a hockey team for a while, so quite a weird journey. If you had told me when they lost to Duke in the Sweet 16, 1 year from now Mark Adams will resign under a cloud of some off-the-court issues, I wouldn't have believed it. But that's kind of a reminder the world can change quickly. So if you're Baylor basketball, hey, if Mark Adams can go from Sweet 16 to fired, you can go from not getting any rebounds to making the Final Four is maybe something to believe in. But certainly, Craig, a very unusual situation in Lubbock. And then we'll see if they make an athletic director change as well. Yeah, what a cool guy walking by me on the street talking on speakerphone. Wow, what an unbelievable thing to hear. But, yeah, very weird situation. And I wonder, too, Craig, when I look at that, is Kirby Hocutt going to be allowed to make another hire? I mean, Joey McGuire's been a home run hire, I think. But other than that, you look at, man, this is the same guy who hired Billy Gillespie. He hired Mark Adams. Chris Beard did well for a couple of seasons, but he really hasn't nailed very many hires. So I just kind of wonder why he's the guy who's going to get to make another hire at Texas Tech.
By the way, this Baylor Athletics segment brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, Buick GMC Cadillac, people you can count on. Kendall, what seed will Baylor be Sunday at 3?
I think that's the most likely. There's still a chance for a 2 with all the Quadrant 1 victories Baylor has. No losses outside of Quadrant 1. Also good high-level Quad 1 victories, including KU and UCLA and Gonzaga on a neutral site. But I think the most likely outcome now probably is a 3 seed. You look at it, you feel secure that KU, Houston, Alabama, UCLA, Purdue, Marquette, I think are all definitely seated above Baylor. I think Texas is as well. And then the question just becomes, okay, is K-State and they're above Baylor? The head-to-head is not supposed to make a difference for that, but I think if K-State wins tonight, they've definitely locked up being seated above Baylor. But their non-conference schedule is bad enough that maybe Baylor still edges them out for right now. I think Baylor's either the top 3 seed or the second highest 3 seed is the most likely outcome with a very outside chance to stay at 2. My best guess is 3 right now.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Kendall, for jumping on with us, and appreciate your time. Kendall Kout covers Baylor men's basketball for 365 Sports and SicEm365.com. So right now with Georgetown open, Patrick Ewing has been not good at all and had no experience really. I think he had been an assistant coach maybe somewhere in the NBA.
In the NBA for a while, yeah.
Georgetown, Syracuse, and with all due respect to Texas Tech in recent years, but those are 2 former Big East badass heavyweights. Mm-hmm. And Syracuse, of course, with Boeheim. Georgetown, of course, back in the day with John Thompson. Those are some alphas, basketball schools that have openings right now at the top, along with Texas Tech, Ole Miss. I saw some scuttlebutt about Washington maybe. Even others, a couple other schools in the Pac-12 might have openings. Cal. But that is, to just think about Georgetown. Again, Georgetown in men's basketball would be like talking about Nebraska, I would think, in college football.
You just threw that out there so casually. Yeah, Patrick Ewing's been fired at Georgetown.
Yeah.
That's happened here in the last few minutes. So that's
like Scott Frost at Nebraska too. I mean, he's a favorite son.
Yeah,
exactly. I came in hard about that. I mean, maybe they've had more success recently than even the Hoyas.
But yeah,
has been blue blood, and Georgetown would be a part of that conversation for about 20 years when John Thompson was there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting up there in age, but Georgetown's been mostly irrelevant for most of my life now at this point. I mean, when I was younger, they were definitely, off the heels of great runs and all of that, but for the better part of a couple decades now at this point, I mean, they've been in a spot that's anything but the hierarchy of college basketball. And, Patrick Ewing had, obviously a big profile, big star power, and, obviously connections there, and you hoped it would work out better. But, they're going a different route, so we'll see. You wonder, like, where do those jobs kind of fall in line now, too, as far as preferences for coaches go, as compared to, like, when you start having the Power 5 sorry, Mike Oresco, the Power 2 conversation, the A5,
of these 4
the Autonomy 5 conversation.
Syracuse is no longer a part of the Big East.
No.
And that was something that Boeheim hated. No longer a part of the Big East. But it's still, I mean, they play.
Hey.
They play. Don't they play in the Carrier Dome?
Yeah, they still play in the great facility, especially one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest for basketball.
It's up in that northeast area. Now, I'm not sure if they were recruiting well. Maybe they haven't been. There are no Carmelo Anthony's running through Syracuse of late.
No, but like they have some advantages, and they're in a classically good basketball league. This is not one of the classically good ACC years.
No, I'm not worried about Syracuse. I'm more worried about Georgetown.
Yeah, Georgetown's got to find themselves, and it's okay. In the NIL era, Like, where does Georgetown sit now? Because it's been a while since they've been good, right?
Yeah.
So where are the alums that want to help make them good again that are out there? Part of the problem is that one of them was probably their coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy who, if he wasn't, would be able to help with that. So, you know, you've got, Allen Iverson went to Georgetown, although I don't know if he was there long enough to care. He was there for a year. And
that was probably the last
Yeah.
time they were as relevant as they probably
exactly.
were. Yeah, it was AI.
Yeah,
and I'm probably maybe missing something. I know they've had stars since then, but like of that caliber and that kind of attention, that it seems like it's probably been that long, and maybe I'm wrong.
John Thompson's son had some good success. They had great success, but he had some pretty good success, and eventually that ran its course. They haven't won 20 games since 2014-15 season.
Yeah, I finally got to see I can't remember. They were somewhere in like one of those pods where they didn't play Baylor. They weren't going to play Baylor, but I always wanted to see Georgetown play growing up as a college basketball fan. I don't know if it was like Tulsa or somewhere I was, Providence, where they were in the tournament, where I got to finally see them play an NCAA tournament game, because they did come here and play an NIT game against Baylor, but I had to run the board for that, so I didn't get to go. But I always had a mystique about Georgetown, but looking back on it, it's really, it's been since I was in high school where they were badass. In a matter of fact, when I was in Washington, D.C., I took a tour of Georgetown. Didn't get to see the basketball facility, which I was a little upset about. Did see the Exorcist steps, but there was a homeless man peeing right on them, so didn't maybe get to experience that like I wanted to. It does. It has lost its mystique. There's not, it's kind of like talking about, back in the days when Army won football championships.
Right. I just brought up the question of I wonder kind of in this day and age where they fit in, because there's definitely spots for basketball driven schools. You look at no further than Brett Yormark's openly talking about adding Gonzaga just yesterday, as a basketball addition. But, I'm not foolish to think that this is still the 1990s where people are randomly rolling around in Georgetown gear on a regular basis, the same they are with the Bulls gear and, things like that. The popularity has waned exceptionally in the last 30 years. I'm just generally asking, in a non-Power 2, Power 5, whatever, and NIL era, and one of your great all-time players didn't work out ultimately as your head coach, or is not working out any longer. What's just the sort of the umph with Georgetown these days, if there is any? What's the kind of driving force for programs like that? And that's just more out of curiosity. Just they don't get talked about very often because it's not football, or it's not Power 5 or Power 2. And so, you just kind of wonder if they get lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah, I went to go on Google, who is the next Georgetown coach, hoping I could go back to the one with landed, Patrick Ewing. I wasn't sure who else was involved in that particular. It's like where Shaka Smart is, who was phenomenal at Virginia Commonwealth, who wanted to run that same kind of system at Texas, but you have a lot of elite players that probably aren't going to grind and throw themselves on the court. Not that they didn't have some dogs. He's at Marquette. That's a basketball school. Georgetown's a basketball school. Syracuse has everything else, but they're going to have to find someone like that. What about where's Ed Cooley? Where is he now? Isn't he he's at like a. He seems to be someone that might, he might be in a place where he's just fine.
Providence.
Okay, well, he's at Providence.
But no, that's what they need.
But
to find.
You know what I mean?
Find your Ed Cooley.
Yeah,
that's what they got to do. And Shaka Smart, I think, is a lesson. He changed too much about himself when he went to Texas.
No,
And sometimes, look. If you're Shaka Smart, they hired you to be Shaka Smart, you be Shaka Smart. I think that was his biggest mistake. You can see it now that he's gone back to Marquette, and you're like, oh, this guy
that's who he
still
is.
That's who he is.
What they did to Baylor is what he did at Virginia Commonwealth. They didn't always win, but that's the kind of style he wanted to play.
And thinking he didn't have to do that at Texas was not necessarily wrong, but it changed who he was. So he was trying to coach a different way than he was comfortable with, because he thought, man, I don't have to run the press anymore. But could you imagine if he could have gotten some of those athletes at Texas to do that? How lethal they would have been if he would have just been himself? That's one of the things that can kind of happen. And I'm happy that he's rediscovered his vibe.
I think he's happy like a pig in slop right now. I really, really do. All right, Garrett, would you put up those two images of Baylor's box score again today against Iowa State? You don't have them anymore? Boy, you don't like evidence, do you?
I do like evidence. I just got a big dude.
I mean, we're not even done with the show. The bottom line is we opened up the show today, and I even had some that were like, they only lost by 8. Well, they lost by 6. They hit 2 late threes in the last 35 seconds. They had, with 5 minutes and 46 seconds left in the game, Baylor was being out-rebounded by Iowa State 36-17. The game ended, and they were out-rebounded 44-17, which means at least the last 6 minutes of the game they did not get a rebound. Nothing clanked off the rim, no free throws that fell off the rim. And that's what Scott Drew was talking to Kendall about, and anyone else I'm sure he was talking to in the postgame. That's just hard to fathom. And maybe that's one of those things. You either burn the tape or you put that in their eyeballs and make them watch it for the next 5 or 6 days leading up to whoever they open up with in the NCAA tournament. 5:33, Craig, I wanted to give you this note from King William III, King William 3D, on the chat room when you were about to start Off the Radar. My favorite part of Tuesdays and Thursdays, Off the Radar. I wanted to pass it along to you.
Thank you.
We did not, when we started this in April of 20, we're coming up on 3 years too. Paul started the top 5. Craig started Off the Radar. These are segments that are unique, and they are absolutely segments that people love, and we appreciate that along with all the other things that we do. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Still and Pipe, brand new location. I don't know how long I can say that because they've now had their new location on Loop 340 in Waco on the east side of 35 since December. So it's coming up on nearly 4 months, but it's still new. It is unbelievable. A 2,500 square foot showroom that gives you and shows you all of what they have. They have several hundred new pieces of product that are different sizes and lengths because now they have bigger, better, faster, stronger. They can also get what you need faster to you because their distribution center's larger. When you buy something that in the past, whether it was metal or steel, angle, whatever it was, tubing, you might have had to take that and then go cut it yourself to make it shorter or take it to somewhere else. No longer is that the case because Pioneer Steel and Pipe has that and different levels, sizes, weights, and more for what you need. Pipe, steel, metal, and more. They are elite at helping people build metal buildings. They have all of what you need when it comes to that. Real estate, commercial or real estate, they have that too. If you're a weekend warrior with this, they can help you with that. If you're a company, then you know all about them. Since 1943, they've been in business with a great amount of product and also incredible customer service that's been there since that first day. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, pioneerboys.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Yeah, Paul, I do remember. You did send something a little bit. Skipper, who used to be John Skipper, that used to run ESPN, had an interview or something about the ACC and Florida State and trying to get out of the grant of rights. And he said he basically put it in perspective. It's going to be a haul.
Yeah, he was on Dan Le Batard and Stugatz, of which I believe that he is business partners with Dan Le Batard in their media venture. But
yeah, it's Meadowlark.
Yeah, Meadowlark. He said, first of all, I don't know if they have another home. I don't know if the Big Ten or SEC wants them. The SEC has a Florida school, so they don't get paid more money in the SEC network for bringing in Florida State. They have 16 teams. It's a nice number to have in a conference. The ACC, I think it's been reported, I don't know this from my experience or any other way, that FSU has about a $30 million penalty it would have to pay for 4 years to get out, $120 million. And so because their deal runs through 2036, other conferences are going to be able to negotiate their own media deals multiple times. So second, the rights to Florida State games, at least in the deal, even if they bought their way out of the conference, remain in the deal until 36. So they could buy themselves out and still not receive revenues. And so he goes on and on. And so he says, I'll give the athletic director at FSU his due. He's simply trying to get somebody's attention. Like, this is not acceptable. I can't keep my program in the top 10 or 15 if I'm getting $30, $40 million a year less than the University of Florida with whom I'm competing. He probably knows this is not practical. I'm not actually sure that the Big Ten or the SEC wants to expand further. So
there's a lot there. There's a lot. So, but isn't the same thing? Remember about people leaving. It's not just the exit fee or the whatever. It is the grant of rights that you can't make money on home games during a certain time period that you have going forward. Isn't that part of it?
Yeah. So what he's saying is that, look, credit to Michael Alford, the Florida State AD, for starting to make this noise because he's trying to say this is unacceptable. Now, the end game in that, to get more money, is going to be very difficult. So for me, that would mean that the ACC would have to get really good beyond 2 or 3 teams and make itself somewhat SEC-like in the next, less than a decade for ESPN to be like, hey, let's make sure that we get more money involved in this so that we can keep this thing together down the line. Otherwise, I don't see that happening, because if you're just going to be a team that is what has classically been, especially the last 30 years, a 2-team league, then why would they have to, give everybody more money? And getting more money, like he goes on to say, doesn't work for anybody else anywhere. And he compared it to the Premier League in England, where they have unequal revenue sharing, and everybody's happy with that. And once in a while, somebody like Leicester City will hop up and win, but they're not setting up to try to help everybody win in the Premier League. It's not like the NFL. They kind of want, Man City, and they want, those big teams there, Liverpool, they want those teams to win. That's what's best for them. Not the ones who...
Like the NFL wants the Cowboys.
Yeah, it doesn't work out, but it didn't work out that way. Yeah, can't do it, yeah.
I know.
So,
Craig, I wanted to get back to something with you on, and if you want to add, I was going to add to this at the end of Off the Radar, and I know you didn't use it. Did you know that there are at least, I think, a couple of states who are trying to get gambling in the WWE?
There's already gambling in the WWE.
Is there really?
Yeah, I think if anything, they're trying to pull back on what I saw was correct. There actually was a report yesterday saying that from now on, and I didn't dive into this deeply, but from now on, I guess the booker, Triple H, would be in this case, or I guess if Vince is around, or whoever else would deliver the information to the performers on who's winning, who's losing, how it goes down, all of that's actually going to be kept closer to the vest up until showtime, or like an hour before showtime, as opposed to maybe knowing that like weeks in advance, depending on the star and the storyline. And that to me just seemed like it's trying to create a solution to the problem that I've always wondered about gambling on WWE, is that they could literally change it at any moment's notice. They've changed outcomes in the ring during an actual match. That's happened plenty, not so much in the WWE a ton, but that's definitely happened.
It seems to be a tremendous conflict.
It just feels like you could warp that however you wanted to and just run away with people's money because you could change the outcome on a moment's notice with just a few hand signs or in the referee's earpiece.
Yeah.
So I for something scripted, I never understood how you could possibly gamble on that anyways. Then again, like you could bet on award shows, you could bet on pretty much anything, but that to me never made any sense whatsoever, because I just always assumed like somebody in the upper management tier of WWE is like got to be taking advantage of that, right? Like they have to be taking advantage of that.
Slide the script to somebody. Go put 1,000 on this.
Look, if I was the creator of Friends, I would have, if there were Vegas odds on Ross and Rachel getting together, and of course they have more money than they ever would know what to do with. But like, say I was having a problem, say I'd used it all up my nose, so to speak, and they said, all right, well, we got to get Ross and Rachel together, and I found out it was 400 to 1 that they wouldn't. I'd be like, you know what, they're not going to. I'm going to piss America off and put everything the rest I have on Ross and Rachel not getting together. Same with WWE.
Yeah, everybody thinks AJ Styles is going to win, like surprise, like just Shinsuke Nakamura is getting this. Like, I mean, and that's to me never has made any sense. I've always thought that was kind of weird that they had that open for the public to do that, but I mean, I guess more adding it. So
what could go wrong? What could go wrong?
All right. If you want to bet on that, that's the risk you run.
Part of that story is WWE in talks with state gambling regulators to legalize betting on high-profile matches. According to people familiar with the matter, the Academy Awards, you brought that up, is already legal and available through some sports betting applications. But at least only a handful of people know. All you need is for one person. You have to know because there's a card, right? Isn't that like Vermilion and Tooth? Whoever's the one that like Deloitte and mayonnaise or what?
Look, here's the deal. Put everything you have on the movie that you like the least that's nominated, the one that you would probably not see. That one I would bet on.
All right.
Lately. Not the good one. Top Gun Maverick should be, but no.
Yeah.
So now I'm reading it, and now I'm seeing where to the point of your story is about like they're working with a firm now to secure the results and keep them from leaking to the but even still, just seems. I mean, there's too many people involved in that. That seems like it's going to be hard to keep a cap on that. But hey, to each their own.
Don't forget tonight, 10:30, the Sports Tonight on the CW. Appreciate that availability every night. Emory is in Kansas City. Is that right?
Yep.
Is he going to stay there now?
Yeah, he was going to anyway. So.
Jack is in Kansas City, or will be pretty soon. And Baylor's men's basketball team won't be. Women play tomorrow, right, Garrett? They play
tomorrow at 7:30.
Tomorrow night at 7:30. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. This is 365 Sports.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 things Baylor needs to do to make a run. This is not, it's just kind of pretty cut and dry, but just to recap and
make more shots
nice
and rebound those who are missed.
Yeah. Number 5, this is pretty easy. Not play Iowa State again.
Well, you know, just for grins, they open up the bracket Sunday and they're in the same region.
That if I were Scott Drew, I would buy all the Tums.
Remember, Craig wasn't quite here yet. The 2010-11 Baylor women's basketball team was top 5 in the country. Of course, this was before the 42-0 or 40-0 team. They had beaten A&M in the regular season twice, and then beat them, I think, in Oklahoma City, Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. And then the bracket came out, and A&M had gotten a little bit better, but still Baylor was dominant. And they were in the same bracket. And the first thing that Kim started talking about was how unfair that was, and we shouldn't. And I think she talked her team into playing up tight, and they lost. And A&M went on to win the national title.
Yeah, I would say the difference is that A&M, each of those games, like, chipped away and figured something out.
I looked at those scores. I don't know if it was always getting closer, but you're right.
But I mean, it was getting closer, but you could tell that they were figuring it out. I would not say that based on the 3 times we've seen Baylor play Iowa State, that this group of guys has figured out Iowa State. And it was never necessarily a bad matchup.
You know
for
what the good news would be? That'd be like in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it would. It would. Number 4, continue. I say get production. I wanted to make it, but get production from Bonner and Bridges. In the games where they can get this kind of offensive production from them, if they get it from the other guards, which we'll talk about in a second, the other players, then they can really be unstoppable. But I do think that these 2 guys down the stretch have been – it's been immeasurable, their contribution and what they've been able to do and turn – I mean, Dale Bonner was just kind of sitting there for games. You know, he didn't even need sneakers. Like, they didn't play, you know, and – came out and was really just some energy that they needed off the bench, some veteran energy. So if they can continue to get production from them, they can make a run, because your bench and the ability, especially in the early rounds, when you're a 3 seed and playing a 14, the thing that you have over them, the thing that you're always going to have over them is that you can come at them in waves where they usually can't respond. And so early in the tournament, when they're playing seeds that are probably significantly lower than them, that's what they need to do, is get something out of their depth.
I thought Bonner was average at best today. Jalen Bridges is why they had the lead and looked like they had a chance to win the game.
Yeah, didn't miss a shot for the first part of the game. Number 3, get the guards going again. These guys can't all 3 be silent in one day. They can't do it. They've got to get them going again, and maybe this week off will. The good news is they're not afraid to shoot themselves out of a slump. I mean, sometimes guys are. These 3 guys will shoot their way out of a slump, and I think we'll see that, but that's how they're going to have to win.
Yep.
Absolutely. So they cannot, as the 3 guards go,
I don't
so
know how
go
many
their
times
run.
all 3 have been like 15 plus.
Yeah.
You know, like all 3 don't have to hit every 3, but at least 15 plus and maybe shooting 38 to 40%. The 3 combined, Flagler, Cryer, and George in a game.
Yeah. Number 2, get some actual rebounds.
No.
They have to do that. They have to.
You know what's crazy about Baylor today? They hit 14 threes.
Yeah.
Because Bridges, of course, hit 7 and still lost the game.
They have to get some actual rebounds. And number 1, play some sort of defense. And what I'm saying here is they don't need to all of a sudden turn into 40 minutes of hell, but they need to do something. They need to do something. They need to fix that on a level that, you know, they don't need to go from what was an F effort today to A+. But if their offense is A, then they really just need a C+ effort on defense, and they'll beat most teams by 9.
Yeah.
But
their effort on the boards. The leading rebounder was Keontae George. No, I guess Bridges had 5. George had 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kendall's words resonate with me most. I felt this way with the football team this past year. Like, I realized not everybody can have, you know, some banner season. There's got to be, you know, up and downs. There's got to be 500 seasons. There's got to be, you know, falling short, things like that. But he hit it on the nail for me when he said, I hope this team, or in so many ways said, I hope this team realizes, like the next loss is it. That's it. They're done. Like, the season is over. Keontae George is never in a Baylor uniform again. Maybe Adam Flagler, maybe LJ Cryer, maybe whoever else you want to add into that mix. That's it. Like, you guys have one guaranteed game as a unit to play. You could play way more than that, but you've got one left. So I know the rebounding can get better. The defense is what it is at this point. You know, the shots are going to follow. They're not. But I hope they do realize that before, you know, you hear the tale 10 years down the road of like, man, we had a squad and we just did not put it all together. And, you know, we're a first or second round exit in the NCAA tournament when this team is far more talented than to be heading out that early. So, yeah, I hope that they can wrap their heads around that. Even still, the matchup they get might dictate that mindset doesn't matter all that much. But that is something to be mindful of, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Rebounding can also contribute to not only second chances, it also can help your defense. If you control the boards, and of course they were dominated on both offense and defensive boards today. Whew, it was bad. But now they'll have one more chance, and maybe 2 to 3 or 5 or 6, I don't know. Right now, the way I look at them, I don't think anything would surprise me if they got past the Sweet 16. To the Sweet 16, to me, I would be, wow. they had to have turned it on.
Yeah, they can't play 6 games because there wouldn't be a 6th game.
No.
They could play as many as 5, right?
No, they play 6 to win it all.
Is it
You
6?
have to win 6 to win it all. Yeah, 2, 2, and 2.
Okay.
Yep. You have to win twice to get to the Sweet 16.
Okay,
You have to win 3 times to get to the Sweet 16. You have to win 6 games. You win the national title.
All right. Yeah,
All right.
I'm not good at math. So.
No, that's okay. Yes, you are. Greg,
No,
Garrett
I'm
Ross.
actually not. Don't tell me I am. I'm absolutely not good at math. I'm not at all good at math. No, I'm not. So.
But you were incredible in English and all that, and I was pretty good at math. All right, so one thing of note, and then we go. Somebody on the Twitter feed said something about BW. Sean Kemp tried to shoot his way out of a slump. Didn't he? Was that too soon?
He probably. Yeah, he's not getting prosecuted apparently. So.
I thought about having that off the radar, but yeah, he was released, but got detained in a drive-by shooting arrest.
Yeah.
But he's not facing charges, so I'm not sure exactly. I need to read more about how all of that unfolded. But yeah, a timely joke, although not exactly accurate. But I do want to say tomorrow that stuff I was talking about during the commercial break. Can we touch on that tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't talk heavy realignment stuff today because it goes as far as what the news is. And I know that Dodd had an article out, but it's basically rehashing a lot of stuff. But I have a question about just sort of the perception of the Big 12 in this whole thing and kind of some of the accusations I've seen thrown around about propaganda and things like that. And I just have a burning question about what that would entail and what that actually would affect. And I want to address that tomorrow.
We will. We'll get into it tomorrow. David Williams, to close out the show, could not have said it maybe better. 2 weeks ago, I thought Baylor was the best team in the Big 12. They beat Texas. About 3 weeks ago, they seem to have fallen apart after that win. They have. They've lost to Iowa State at home badly and then lost again earlier to Iowa State. Good luck to everyone playing tonight. Texas is playing tonight against Oklahoma State and Mike Boynton. And then, of course, tonight, TCU and K-State. Good luck to Jerome Tang and whoever you like to win the game. All right, for Garrett Ross, thank you very much. Thank you on the chat room, the text line tomorrow. We'll do it again, 3 to 6, 365 Sports. Good night for Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We do appreciate you.